they had pride, they had talent, they had hats and T-shirts.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app. Download the Odyssey app, follow 1080 The Fan, and enable push notifications to get the latest on the Ducks, Beavers, Blazers, and more.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, 6:02 in the Rose City. Time for Dirt and Sprague on Portland Sports Leader 1080 The Fan.
24 Reno.
3 Dallas, ready?
58.
Oh, yeah.
58. Rambo. 59. Monday. Red Polly.
Red right, 24 double Puma on one.
Here we go.
Happy Football Friday, everybody. Hello.
What is happening?
Schultze shaking your head over there at all the quarterback cadence.
Just
What's
the
wrong?
Dak Prescott. Just the, yeah, here we go. And then,
Here we go.
I think
Interception.
I think, yeah, exactly. Oh, no touchdown. I think I need to go find the Cooper Rush copying and see whose is better.
Here we go.
I know you don't change the cadence up once you go to the backup, but
Oh, it's definitely Dak's is better. I've heard the Cooper Rush one, and it's not bad, but it's not
He's
Dak.
got good pipes. Like, we can make fun of Dak Prescott for a lot of things.
Here we go.
It really is.
It
like,
sounds good.
It's an amazing quarterback call.
It really is.
Of all the ones you play, it's either him or Cam for me all time.
Well, that just gives me memories of the 2010 BCS championship. So, well, he wasn't doing ready in that game, at least. I don't think.
No,
I don't
that
think
was
so.
Auburn. He wasn't there.
That didn't become a thing until he was in Carolina. I don't believe. It's just his deep
43
voice.
Dallas, ready?
It was just like oh wow, Cam Newton's really loud and okay.
Blue 58.
Well, like the
Blue
Omaha, Blue 58, Rogers does Green 19.
Yeah.
Yeah, those aren't bad. But Dak doing, yeah, here we go. He did it last year, threw a pick six in the playoffs.
He did against Green Bay. That was still one of the funnier playoff games of the entire year.
Here we go.
When it leads to a bad play, like the other ones, there's not it's something that looks at me. It's just like a part of your call. You don't really make a lot of, you don't take note of it when somebody just gives you a Green 19 or gives you a
Red Polly.
gives you one of those. You're just
Right.
like, whatever, Red Polly, if you throw a pick after that. There's something about saying
Here we go.
followed by a bad play that just makes it comically wonderful. It's just, I'm ready to go. No, I'm not. Damn it.
Well, I always view it more as like, when I hear it, I more view it as, I don't know, like you're calling somebody out to fight him.
Yeah, you ready to go?
Yeah, here we go.
You
And
ready?
then he gets knocked out. You're like,
World
what happened?
star! What the hell, man? That backfired on me right there. Cam's is a bit of the same way, too. He's kind of looking across at the middle linebacker like, you ready?
Yeah,
And then
no,
you
there's
hike
no
it.
doubt about it.
I'm going to go run through your chest right now, man. Here comes a quarterback draw.
One of the all-times is Cam playing, I think it was Clay Matthews in Green Bay, and Clay called out the play, and he said, oh, you've been studying, huh? Well, watch this. And then he scored a touchdown.
He
It was
did.
an all-time trash talk.
That's like the moment when you cross the guy over in basketball and he falls over and you take the 2 seconds to stare at him before you got to make the shot.
You gotta
And so
point.
you got to look at him. You got to make sure everybody in the arena makes fun of that guy for a
Yeah.
brief second, and then you got to finish the play. If you're going to do you've been studying, now watch this, you got to go finish it. And he finished it. He scored a touchdown.
I almost got in a fist fight in college playing rec league basketball because I played against a guy and he was going right with a screen. And so I was going to go over the screen, and then he crossed back to his left pretty quickly. And I guess he thought he had crossed me over because he was like, oh, and then
Ooh,
his
I got
teammates
you.
on the bench were like, oh.
He gave it
And then he shot like an NBA distanced three, and I contested, and he missed. And I just looked at him, and I was like, why don't you make the shot and shut up?
You got to finish the play.
And he didn't like that. He did not like that very much.
Well,
and
he's a bitch. Yeah, it kind of sounds like one. I'm with Schultze on this one.
I think if we would have fought, I would have been the bitch. but
Probably.
when I play sports, I tend to forget these things.
You get
and so,
passionate. You're in the heat of the moment.
Yeah, especially 20-year-old Sprague.
I mean, that's rule number one. If you're going to make fun of somebody
Make the
for
shot.
crossing them over, you got to finish the play.
Gotta
You got to
make the
make the
shot.
shot.
Listen,
man.
bitch, make the shot.
I mean, it's like if you're, this is no different than baseball. baseball. Like if you're going to pimp your swing, you hit a ball, you think it's gone, you flip your bat up, and you better hope that thing's over the fence. Because if it's not, you're going to look like an idiot. That was a long fly ball.
Who's the hitter that does that the most? When you think of that, like the pimping of a home run that's not a home run.
Probably the number one name that pops out in my mind is Yasiel Puig.
That's where I was going
to go. When Puig would he used to do that constantly. In playoff games, then it'd be like a long single because he wouldn't run out of the box and the ball would go off the wall. And you're like, dude, you should be at third right now. You just look like an idiot. Instead, you hit a 394-foot single. You gotta finish it.
The original bat flipper, Brett Boone, he would do that a lot. Because I think back in the day, Booney was like one of two bat flippers in all of MLB, and he would do the flip,
but he does like
hit
the
a home
quick
run.
flip. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like
the pimpin' flip.
Pimping it.
You thought it was a pimp flip?
Because you see the look
Big
on his
pimpin'.
face. He's like, got it. And there were many a times where it was like a double or it was an out.
You, narrator, you did not get that one. It did not go over the fence.
I'm way too lazy to look into this, but I would love to look at the stats of this because for me with Brett Boone, who I think is our Odyssey coworker now.
One of my favorite players in MLB history, by the way. I will say that. So, I'll dog him a little bit, but he's...
I mean, he's a Mariner fan,
Come on, bro.
I can't tell.
Not a lot to go over there.
I can't tell today.
Not a lot of favorite players to choose from.
Happy birthday to Edgar yesterday, by the way.
Oh, see, there you go. There's a legend. There's somebody I can tip my cap and respect. I would love to look at the numbers. I don't know what they'd be, but the minute he swung and missed at the home run derby is the minute that guy sucked forever.
Just disappeared from the face of the planet.
In my mind, it was like, you're not good anymore.
Whatever happened to Yasiel Puig?
Collins, generational, all-time Hall of Fame.
The greatest baseball
talent.
Player of all time will be Yasiel Puig. And I don't know if I've heard that name in like 4 years.
He's playing in the Dominican League or something.
Is that where he is now?
I don't. Last I saw, he was playing.
The last time he was in the big leagues was 2019. He was 28 years old. 28 years old is the last time he hit 2 home runs, 23 RBIs. That year he was in between Cincinnati and Cleveland.
He plays for the KBO, the Korean baseball.
He's in Korea?
He's in Korea.
I bet that's a big draw in Korea, I'd imagine. I mean, there's worse things that you could do than go on overseas and being like the number one face of a league.
The one thing I would give those Asian leagues credit on that we're just kind of now okay and catching up with in this country, man, they lean into the entertainment side of that sport.
They absolutely
They pimp stuff. They kind of watch it. And they don't get offended by it when they throw the pitch that goes over the fence.
No, they got sexy gals walking all over the field. I mean, the Korean baseball goes all in, man.
We might be we're aiming to try for a Japan trip, and I don't know if it's going to be this year, but like that'd be cool.
Be a badass trip to do.
I'd love to time it whenever their league's going on. I don't know when their season is happening, but it'd be really cool to go to a Japanese baseball game.
That would be really awesome.
Like that's kind of sneaky on one of my sports bucket list is probably too long, right? But like sneaky on that is going to like a Japanese baseball game.
An NPB game, Nippon Professional Baseball, absolutely.
And you see a couple of future big leaguers too on top of it potentially. They their season runs
and a couple of former.
Yeah, and a couple of
I'm
former.
looking more for the Tom Sellecks of the world.
You want the Tom Selleck, and his mustache over there hitting dingers. They have the same baseball season, March to October.
Oh, so there's a chance that if we go to Japan, I might actually.
You go in the summer, you go in the spring, you go check out a baseball game while you're there. That'd be a pretty cool thing to do.
Yeah.
That'd be a fun thing. Like, that's on my bucket list as I get older in life, is checking off sporting events in other countries.
Yes.
Like going to a European, I'm not the biggest soccer guy,
match.
but
Me
like
too.
being in England and like going to a pub and then walking down the street and going to the stadium and singing the songs and having a good time. It'd be incredible to do. Japanese baseball, same category.
Now, let me ask you this. This is going to be a weird question to ask you, but my father is half Japanese.
Yeah.
Which nobody believes me when I say that because I'm pale white and I look like the whitest of whites.
Hey, you're a quarter Japanese.
I'm a quarter Japanese. My grandma, 100%, came over with my grandpa from his time in the military. And she's from Japan. And I'm curious, if I went to Japan and I looked up her like family tree, how weird or odd it'd be to find a relative of my grandma and then like go visit them and be like, hey, translate it. We're related.
Me and you. Get your translate app out on your phone. Try and speak sentences to them. Hello, I am Brandon Sprague. We are long lost cousins.
I did that in Vietnam with a Russian.
Did you?
Yeah, we met a guy at a Vietnam hotel that we stayed at, and I don't even know how or why we started talking, but he and my brother-in-laws and I were outside until about 1:30 a.m., and we were having a conversation
through Google Translate.
Google Translate, which is like half accurate most of the time.
You're picking up like every other word as they're trying to say something in English, and they're looking at you like, all right, I got 4 words of that in Russian.
Like we would say something, and then he'd have to play it, and he would sit there and play it, and he'd go, and then we'd like say a word, and he'd like,
I got it.
He would say something in Russian and translate it back in English. Wow. That was an interesting, fun experience.
I think it would be pretty badass to go meet some long-lost relatives in Japan.
Yeah, but culturally, it'd be so...
I mean, it would be
they wouldn't believe
absolute shock. They wouldn't believe you, but as long as you got the documentation, bring a picture of the grandma, like, right? Like, bring all the evidence that shows that you're a part of that family.
Yeah.
How cool would that be, man? You got the paperwork, you can back it up.
Well, that's the thing, is the paperwork.
Maybe become long-lost pen pals. Maybe you got a pen pal now, and you're writing letters like every other month, sending them back to Japan.
It'd be really cool if we did that, but I just wrote in English, and he just wrote in Japanese.
And try and translate it or read it or just have no clue. Just like, look at this.
We just keep writing each other thoughts and opinions, but we never know what each other's saying, but we just have letters.
This is kind of cool because in the playoff game, I didn't realize this, that Notre Dame has a Chinese player on their team. He's a corner, I think. Or
was he injured?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm thinking.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he was injured, but I know that they had. I saw like a picture of him yesterday, and they wrote his last name on the back of his jersey in Chinese.
Oh,
that's
really
cool.
Which is really cool. So you can't really know, but I think Dew is his last name.
Yeah,
D-U?
Charles Dew.
Charles Dew. Yeah, I think he's
Chuck Dew.
Chuck Dew. Shout out Chuck Dew.
Hell
And the
yeah.
back of his jersey was written in Chinese. I saw there was a picture of him warming up at the Sugar Bowl yesterday.
It was very confusing to find out that Ichiro's not his last name.
That is the
That threw me
surname
so
thing
off,
is
yeah.
really weird.
I mean, it's cool. I
no,
don't hate
totally.
it,
Just
but it
trying
threw
to
me
get used
off.
to it. Yeah.
Who would be the coolest baseball player to go that route and have the first name on the back of their jersey?
Oh, that's a great question.
I mean, like historically, it would definitely be Babe Ruth. Like if you just had Babe on the back of your jersey instead of Ruth.
This might be stupid. How come Shohei's not on the back and Otani is, but Ichiro is on the back, but not Suzuki?
That's it. I
got no clue.
So
I got nothing for you there.
Ohtani
You're the
has
Japanese guy.
actual
You're supposed to know
size.
this stuff. Where's your Japanese knowledge, man?
Well, I was raised by the white.
You got to go meet the Japanese people and then ask them this question. Why is Shohei not on there, but Ichiro was?
I'm always interested in the Japanese part of culture, and when I throw it to my dad, who, again, half Japanese, lived in Japan a little bit,
yeah.
he doesn't seem interested at all.
He just doesn't care. I'm out.
When, what's the Laker that we might have traded for? I'm blanking right now.
Rui Hachimura?
When Rui Hachimura got drafted, I told him we should buy Hachimura jerseys.
Yeah.
He didn't care 2S about that at all.
Really?
He didn't care
No
at
pride, no Japanese pride with a
None.
guy in the NBA from Japan.
Half
Japanese
his white
kid.
side just was beaming. It was like, I don't care about that.
It's overtaken.
I was like, okay, cool. I thought you'd care, but all right.
I mean, how many Japanese players are there in the NBA?
He was the first Japanese player drafted, I believe, and definitely drafted in the first round, and definitely drafted in the lottery. So there's a lot of caveats there, but I believe he's the first.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that was probably the first, but I'll look it up, see if there's any others in the NBA.
Now, who is the player first name on the back? Bryce would be cool. Harper.
Bryce would be pretty cool.
Just seeing Bryce on the back?
It's very bro-y. It looks like there are...
He's pretty bro-y.
He is very bro-y. It looks like there are 4 current Japanese players in the NBA.
Well, you got the short dude that
3
we
of
watched
whom
in the
I've
Olympics.
never heard of. Rui Hachimura is the only name I know.
Well, you remember the short point guard from the Olympics? He's playing on the Grizzlies now.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like that guy, Yuki.
Yes.
Him.
Yeah.
There's a Yuta Wanatabi.
Yep.
Sure.
I know him.
And a Tabusi Yuta. Utah?
Are you saying Utah or Utah?
Y-U-T-A.
Okay.
What's the pronunciation on that one? I don't know.
Text
Y'all
my dad.
remember
Yeah,
Wong
go ahead and
Juju
ask.
for the Dallas Mavericks
Yeah.
back in the day?
I remember that name back in the day.
I'm trying to figure out if he wore his first or last name on the jersey, because that's really hard to find because he didn't play in the NBA very
It's not
long.
something people would care about, but I'm genuinely curious.
No.
Why is Ichiro on the back but not Shohei?
I'm trying to find that
Would
answer.
Shohei be better than Otani?
I don't think so. I think Otani's the better name, and vice versa for Ichiro. Ichiro was
Ichiro's
definitely the better
Suzuki,
name.
Yeah.
Every time he'd come up, Ichiro.
Yeah.
Ichiro. Everybody would chant it. It was a big thing.
Otani always wore his well, I don't know if it's his surname or not now on his jersey. Even back in Japan, it's always been Ohtani. There was never. I'm not seeing a Shohei jersey.
Now, what was the Mariners had a pitcher in the same era as Ichiro that was the closer?
Shigetoshi Hasegawa is who you're thinking of.
What was on the back of his?
Hasegawa, and he was an Angel before that. He always wore Hasegawa.
So Ichiro maybe not the standard.
Outlier. He just wanted his first name to be a thing.
Hideo Nomo, remember? Nomo was on the back of his jersey.
Nomo was too.
That's true.
And I think let's see.
I'm Jose Canseco.
I'll be Hideo Nomo.
Canseco.
You be Hideo Nomo.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Ichiro just knew that naturally Ichiro was better to have on the back of a jersey.
Great branding. Everybody knows the name Ichiro now in American sports. You say Ichiro, it's the first thing that sticks out.
Well, we have a lot to get to.
We do.
I got some news to share with you at 6:15.
Oh, we got big news right out of the gate.
We got college football to get to. We had a game yesterday, which felt weird.
1 o'clock game on a Thursday felt very weird.
Went like to almost 5. It felt like.
It was a very long game.
Yeah.
Can we just kind of, especially the last quarter, you kind of knew the outcome.
I know, but you couldn't turn it off.
Couldn't turn just in case.
I kept telling my wife, this game sucks. And she's like, well, why are you watching? I'm like, God, just in case they score a touchdown, I have to keep watching.
You don't want to be the guy that turns the game off, and then you get the show tweet later in the night, like, hey, Georgia scored 2 touchdowns in the last 9 minutes or 90 seconds of the game and won. Like, what? I thought Notre Dame was up. What happened?
We have Kirby Smart audio. He says something that I want to see if we can try to guess who he's talking about.
Okay.
We've got Jimmy Butler audio.
Ooh, buddy, that's not going well in Miami right now.
Chuck Barkley calling out J.J. Redick on national television. We got that audio to get to. Did you hear this?
I did not hear that at all, no.
Wow. Not great, Bob.
Not good.
Not good for JJ.
They were calling out Joel Embiid last night for being fat, too, on TNT. Everybody's taking shots at everybody in your league again.
It's the all-time best sports show, but it's problematic for the league, is one of my opinions, actually.
Okay, that's a fair take.
So we'll get to that today. We'll Sprague the line. It is a football Friday, so we'll Sprague the line, get the Sprague line sponsors in. The Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. I have a show admission to share with Dirt. We'll do it next on The Fan.
The Fan is live on YouTube, Twitch, and now This is a Football Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
on 1080 The Fan.
Look, I'm not proud of this. Christmas just happened, so the NBA has started. How's that going for you so far?
You know, we'll get there. Give it time. We'll get there.
I know. There's a lot of people.
A lot of playoff games
Football
going
season's
on.
still
It's
going
week
on.
18. Playoff wild card weekends next weekend. Give it time. We'll get there. Maybe it starts in February. I'm not sure.
I had a friend who's a Duck fan. He goes, "You want to golf next week?" And I was like, "Dude, that's
Football season's over, man. We're on a baseball
That's
or
the
basketball.
NFL.
No, it can't be basketball because we got torched by Illinois last night. We're on a baseball season now.
ooh,
Baseball
that's okay.
season time.
Beavs got torched by Loyola Marymount.
Hey, LMU.
Hey, what's the net rating though?
The net rating solid. I don't think we're going to be ranked in the top 10 anymore after that one.
I think you guys are going to drop a little. Also, Illinois looked really good.
Are they a good team all of a sudden? Are they
Well, they're
good
top
again?
25.
Is Darren Williams back? What's happening in Illinois?
They had a couple players that looked like Darren Williams. They couldn't miss from the perimeter. They had like 4 dudes go for like 15 or more.
Myers Leonard walking through that door
Man,
again.
I guess he was.
Here comes the hammer.
Yes, he was.
To tell you how out of touch I am with the sport of basketball right now, I didn't even know Oregon was playing last night. And we even talked about it on the show yesterday that they had a game on the fan.
And
later.
you were still surprised.
And I was like, oh, that's right, Oregon's playing. I saw the score in the second half. I was like, that's right, I forgot Oregon's playing. And
I had the triple view of YouTube. I had the Oregon-Illinois game going. I had Denver versus the South Dakota State Jackrabbits going.
How do you not?
I got to be honest, as a guy who loved to play basketball at one point in my life, I still do, but I just don't get to play as much. I would have loved to have gone to South Dakota State.
God, just gone and been a Jackrabbit?
Yeah.
Small school,
Jack up
cold
threes.
weather.
Yes.
I mean, the only thing you could do if you're a South Dakota Jackrabbit is work on your game.
I agree.
That's it, because there's nothing, like there's no distractions. The weather sucks. There's one thing to do and one thing to do only, and that's going to go put up shots in the gym.
And then the third team was Washington hosting Maryland.
Did they win last night?
They came back and they ended up winning.
Look at that. Good for the puppies.
Sprinkle.
Congratulations to the Sprinkles.
I still need a Sprinkle Tinkle game. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but I need a Washington-Oregon State game to happen for Sprinkle Tinkle.
They should have kept a little non-conference game there. Close travel for both. It would have worked out well.
But the reason I bring that up, I have a confession to give you.
Okay.
I'm supposed to get information. I was supposed to call Danny Meringue yesterday. I just ran out of time. He does the post game. I got tired. I don't know why. I don't know if I missed an announcement or information. I was told that the new year would bring me Blazers on YouTube TV. Guess what wasn't on YouTube TV yesterday?
It was not on YouTube TV yesterday.
No, but Law & Order was on the Charge channel.
Ba, 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 ba.
And I didn't feel like watching Law & Order. I wanted to watch sports. And so I kind of boycotted the Blazer game. I got to be honest. I just straight up didn't turn it on. I chose not to.
Yeah, you didn't miss much.
Well, I know they lost and, whatever. But I'm kind of upset that I thought I was getting this in the new year and the new year's here and I still don't have it. And the antenna's been fine, but I have to watch it iPad if I want to watch other things.
And that's not fun to do. If there's things that you actually want to watch.
Yeah, it was just kind of annoying. And so you know what? God bless Blazer fans that watched them lose to the Lakers last night. LeBron had a great night.
Sure.
But I boycotted. I got to be honest. I boycotted the game because I'm kind of tired of this. Give me it on YouTube TV.
The funny thing about this is that I'm so lost with my clock. Like, I obviously know that it's the new year, but this last 2 weeks, what day has it been? I don't know. We had Wednesday, not a full-time show, but it was New Year's Day, and then we're back. Like, it felt like a weekend. And
it's going to happen next year.
Right, and yesterday felt like a Monday. Yeah. So my whole calendar has been off. So I had obviously the Notre Dame-Georgia game on my TV, and then, the game's over, and you just leave your TV on ESPN. And halfway through the first half of the Ole Miss Duke whatever bowl game that was, the Gator Bowl or whatever they were playing in, it dawned on me of why am I watching the Gator Bowl right now? Why is this still on my TV?
Oh, you watched that?
And then just out of habit, I put on the game on the antenna just because I didn't even connect the dots that it was the new year and that they're supposed to be on YouTube TV. And so I didn't even go check on YouTube TV, and I watched until early third quarter, and I went to bed because the games in LA start at 7:30, and that's just too late for me.
I mean,
I saw the first half, and that was about it.
To be fair, they've had 3 or 4 different messages from the Blazers about, hey, this is actually where and when you're going to be able to see it. I mean, even trying to go to that website where it's all listed, it's still kind of confusing. And it's wait, so I have DirecTV, so which channel is me?
Yeah, no, I saw the 2.2, but I'm like, oh, it's the new year. It's Charge. And I could be mistaken. I checked the account, but they probably have too many tweets for me to find it. I could have swore at the new year they talked about when the clock strikes. There was a tweet, something to the effect of when it strikes midnight, the Blazers network starts. And I'm like, okay, for me, when I saw it and I was scrolling, I was like, okay, it's going to be on in the new year. I'm good. And then, nope.
Well, nothing.
What about the whole Univision thing? Because that's what on DirecTV, that's where I ended up finding the Blazers game. Was on Univision. Yes. That it was a new channel. Like after the new year.
God, maybe it was on YouTube TV.
And you just didn't find the right channel?
I didn't go to Univision. I didn't think about Univision.
So we're no longer on Charge. Now we're on Univision?
Well, on
YouTube
TV, though.
Well, but wasn't there like this whole movement? Like, didn't they end Univision programming at one point earlier in the last calendar year in 2024?
No way they
put
did.
Blazers in Portland.
No.
Sorry, not national, but like there was a
Univision.
local Portland news program that was sponsored by Univision. They kind of did this whole thing sprinkled around the country.
You're not getting rid of those hot weather.
No,
people.
you can't get that off my TV.
I need to see the weather in Mexico.
Caliente today.
Oh man,
I'm pretty sure I remember a tweet from one of the anchors saying that they were ending the Portland Univision programming.
That's disappointing.
And I thought because of that meant that's where they were throwing everything in the new year. But see, I don't know. Like
we need a full investigation on this because I didn't even connect the
service.
dots that it was supposed to be on YouTube TV. So just out of habit, I put it on the antenna. So I didn't even check.
You've already forgotten it's 2025.
I've already forgotten it's 2020. I don't know what day it is. I don't know what year it is. The last week's been an absolute mess. I got no clue what's going on.
Having the holidays in the middle of a week and back-to-back weeks has thrown a wrench in
everything
things.
off.
It sucks.
I drove in today, and one of my favorite things about Portland is the Portland, Oregon deer sign that's lit up. And I drove past it this morning, and I go, oh, the red nose is gone.
Not Christmas anymore.
Now the holidays are over.
I should probably get my Christmas lights down this weekend. That would be a good start. Haven't done that yet.
Yeah, I did that. I got to take my tree out of my house, but
yeah, I got the tree down. I got the decorations down. Lights still up on the house for now, though.
I listened to Mannheim Steamroller on the way in this morning. I really do.
You're still in the spirit, man.
Damn right,
Come on, it's only been a week. I'm not moving on quite yet. I'm not ready.
Yeah, carry it with you.
Well,
all
when's
year,
their next?
Schultze.
When's their next game? How long do we got to wait till the next Blazer game?
It's against Milwaukee on Saturday.
Oh, the Dame game.
Okay, we got the Dame game.
It's in Milwaukee, though.
In
right?
Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's a road trip. Yeah.
So that'll be the challenge tomorrow. Sitting around. I'll check it out on YouTube TV. I don't know if anybody even tried to watch the game, but I'm curious if that because I do remember Meringue telling me that that's what they were waiting for. That the channel that they were going to be on YouTube TV had a contract until the end of the year that they were unwilling to leave early.
Yeah.
And so it was up at New Year's Eve, and then on January 1st, the channel was going to flip over.
And that would be Univision.
And that, I believe, should be Univision. But it's also confusing messaging because we were told all year it was going to be on Charge, and that's what it's been on. If you watch on Comcast or you watch on your antenna, you go to 2.2, you find the Charge channel.
Yeah.
So now I got a Univision I got to throw in there. The messaging hasn't been great.
Well, I want to get to the college football playoff game we had yesterday, but I'll just kind of end it by saying it's 2025, and I'm still struggling to find local sports teams. And
not ideal.
This isn't just a Portland problem, by the way.
No.
This is happening everywhere.
Yep.
And it's just nuts that we're having this.
It's one of the funniest things that doesn't get talked about in terms of the health of especially baseball and especially the NBA. Like, maybe we make the games easy and accessible for local fans, and that will make fans more invested in their team, potentially.
The underrated point I've always heard in this ratings conversation, and we're going to have a ticker guest today that we'll talk about this with, but with baseball and football, or baseball and basketball, specifically, the underrated point of football isn't just that America loves the sport the most. They do. They certainly do. It's that their games are on K2, NBC, Fox.
Yeah.
You cannot have
once
anything.
in a blue moon, you got a game on Prime, or you got a game on a streaming,
Sure.
a random Christmas day on Netflix. But
sure. But the point is, you've got CBS
in your local market.
You
will be able to watch the game on network television
on standard channels that you don't need this bundle or that stream or this. It's just on regular old TV. Basketball doesn't have that. It's TNT. It's HBO Max. It's ESPN, ESPN2, The Deuce. Random channels.
The Ocho.
The Ocho.
Yeah, I mean, baseball's blackout rules keep so many people from being able to watch their own teams. And it is a hindrance to the growth of your sport. Yeah. And why those leagues have not been able to figure that out and just make it streamlined and easy for every fan to be able to see their team. It's one thing to be able, hey, I don't want you to watch the entire NBA. The NFL's not going to give you every game for free. You got to go buy Sunday ticket. You got to go buy Red Zone if you want to be able to watch the other things. But you'll get your team in your market every single weekend. Baseball and basketball need to take a page page out of their book.
Let's pivot. Let's get to the college football playoff. We owe an apology to one team, or at least I do. And Kirby Smart saying something that's making me go, who's he talking about here? Get to the college football playoff. Notre Dame beating Georgia yesterday. Next on The Fan.
This is a Football Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update is brought to you by Vulcan Design and Construction. Check out their award-winning outdoor living designs or schedule your free design consultation at vulcandc.com. First on The Fan, 7th seed Notre Dame beating 2nd seeded Georgia at the Sugar Bowl in the quarterfinals of the college football playoff. 23-10 the final. Riley Leonard had 170 all-purpose yards, threw for a touchdown, while Jaden Harrison took a kick return to the house from 98 yards out. Fighting Irish now moving on to face Penn State in the Orange Bowl next Thursday. In the association, the Portland Trailblazers tipping off a 5-game road trip in Los Angeles by taking a loss to the Lakers 114-106 the final. LeBron going off for 38 points. Ant Simons leading the way for the Blazers with 23. Portland off today before facing Dame and the Bucks on Saturday. On the college hardwood, 22nd ranked Illinois handling number 9 Oregon and handed them their second loss of the season in a 109-77 beatdown in Eugene. The Ducks 1-2 in conference play. And elsewhere, Loyola Marymount beat Oregon State 82-61, and 19th ranked Gonzaga smacking the Portland Pilots 81-61 the final there. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The original home of The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Weekdays 9 to noon, 1080 The Fan.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash.
This is a Football Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
on 1080 The Fan.
Well, I always appreciate the text police, and they're coming in helping us out here. And on the old Twitter. Turns out it probably was on my YouTube TV. When you go to the guide of YouTube TV, I like it on TV, but the channel, it didn't pop up.
Yeah.
Which was odd.
Also, if you're just scrolling, you got to go to the search for the name of the channel, because scrolling and trying to find a random channel will take you forever.
Well, the text police are saying Univision is it for YouTube TV, and I'm not calling them liars. I'm actually going to say I'm wrong here.
Yeah.
But right now on my Univision on YouTube TV, I've got Como Dice El Dicho.
It's still a Univision channel.
So it's still like, and then coming up after this is Desperita America.
Oh, I'm going to watch that. Glued to it every single Friday.
Well, and then I don't know how you forget, but El Anjo de Aurora.
Big fan of that show.
I mean, come on, how do you not watch that?
Big fan of that show.
So I don't know if that's now a pseudo Blazer channel.
And they just show Blazer games after whatever's on Spanish broadcasting for the day? Because I thought the plan was to have a channel that was like a Blazer channel where they're like showing old games, and it's Blazer Vision essentially on TV.
Is there a way to, like, I love our broadcast. Is there a way to have it in Spanish?
I'd watch a Spanish broadcast.
Like, do you know when the scene in Home Alone when they're watching It's a Wonderful Life in was it French?
No.
Yeah. George. It's just dubbed. That'd be pretty dope if you had Calabro and you had Heard, but it was in Spanish.
Yeah, this says, so somebody sent us a Blazers Edge post. Rip City will have even more ways to access Blazer games as KUNP with the Portland market will officially be the Portland flagship station for the Rip City Television Network. They will air local and non-exclusive nationally televised games as well as pre- and post-game coverage, and then episodes of their Emmy Award-winning team docuseries, The Trail, and more Trailblazers content.
Okay, there you go.
So I guess it was on KUNP last night.
Shout out that.
We just didn't search in the right place, I guess.
All right.
Good old Emmys. They never mention if it's a national Emmy, a regional Emmy,
it's a region.
City Emmy.
It's a region.
We're Emmy Award winners, too.
We might have an award winner here. Danny Meringue might win an Emmy.
He could win an Emmy.
Who knows?
Look at Meringue.
I was wrong about Notre Dame. I'd like to just start the segment with that.
Nice little win for Marcus Freeman yesterday,
Great
man.
little win for him. He manipulated his special teams play that threw Kirby Smart through a loop.
Also, it should be noted, you go back and watch that play, there definitely should have been a flag on Notre Dame on that play.
That's what
I
thought.
Why do you say that?
So the play wasn't illegal. Kirby tried to say that the play was illegal, but
Yes.
it wasn't illegal because the center didn't touch the football. So the rule is once the center touches the football, you're essentially set for the play. Then you can't substitute 11 guys. So they never got set. So you can substitute 11 guys. That is fair and that is legal within the rule book. But if you go back and watch the play, prior to Georgia jumping off sides, the wide receiver at the bottom of the screen jumps off sides before anybody.
False start.
He flinches and false starts, and then maybe a millisecond later, Georgia goes into the neutral zone, and then Notre Dame hikes it, and they throw the ball down the field.
Yeah, I will concede that
hell of a play,
happened.
though. It was a brilliant call on his
Yes.
part. Like, fourth down, what the hell? They jump off. We take a delay a game. If we get it, whatever. We're going to punt either way.
Well, this was interesting because Notre Dame, I think what stuck out for me, and I would imagine it stuck out to you too, they just out-physicaled the living hell out of the Georgia Bulldogs. And I know this isn't the best Georgia team.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the quarterback stuff. Like, all of that is fair to throw out. But I also think it's fair to maybe wonder aloud, not that Kirby Smart isn't going to win again, but many people danced on the SEC grave yesterday. And I know Ole Miss won some irrelevant bowl game that nobody cared about.
You were watching the Gator Bowl? Come on, man.
Sure wasn't. But, largely, the SEC now is going to be relying upon a former Big 12 team to save their kind of respectability.
And I think they're going to get killed.
And there's a lot of that sentiment. And so, I give so many flowers to Marcus Freeman. He seems like such a good, humble dude. I've always liked him. But the Ohio State stuff a year ago and then losing to Northern Illinois, and I watched them, but I'm like, that schedule, I don't know how good these other teams are.
Mm-hmm.
I give them a tip of the cap. Great job. They've got a real chance to get to the national championship if they're going to play like that. There was a big takeaway for me, Dirt, that the portal era now, suddenly other teams can pay players, and I don't know if you're just going to see SEC run through everybody the way we once did in the 4-team playoff and well before that. And so I was happy for Notre Dame. I don't root for Notre Dame in particular, but I was happy to see Notre Dame, and I was stunned to see how much more physical they were than Georgia. They just manhandled them.
Yeah, I mean, the most impressive thing of the game for me for Notre Dame was their run defense. They lost one of their best defensive linemen in their first playoff game for the season against Indiana, and when you lose a guy like that, you wonder, all right, will Georgia be able to overwhelm you at the line of scrimmage? The benefit for Notre Dame in this game was that I think they had literally zero fear of any Georgia passing attack. Like, you want to throw the football, throw it all you want, dude. We don't think Gunnar Stockton can beat us with his arm, and that ended up being proven right. He made a couple of nice throws here or there.
Well, they lead the nation in drops.
They do.
Georgia.
They had a lot of them in that game. They had a deep shot that a wide receiver dropped in, and it cracked me up because 2 quarters later he was giving signals to the quarterback of like, hey, can you lead me on a slant? And then he dropped the ball like 2 plays later.
I saw that
could have helped them convert a 4th down when they had to go for it on like 4th and 13. They had 29 rush attempts. Georgia did for 62 rushing yards. That is dominance at the line of scrimmage. The irony of all of it is that they outgained Georgia outgained Notre Dame in the game 296 to 240. Mm-hmm. Notre Dame couldn't throw the football. Riley Leonard had 90 passing yards, but they didn't really need to. If you didn't watch any of that game yesterday, the only thing you needed to watch was the last 5 minutes of the first half and the first play of the second half, because that was the game. Notre Dame couldn't do anything on offense. It was a 3-3 game. Georgia couldn't do anything on offense.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, Notre Dame got good field position off of a bad punt. They kicked a field goal towards the end of the half, and you thought, all right, 6-3, here we go. Georgia, with 48 seconds to go, decided, you know what, let's try and throw the ball with Gunnar Stockton, and I believe it was the first play of the drive. You had a strip sack, and then Notre Dame scored a touchdown on the next play, and then they opened the second half with a kickoff return for a touchdown.
17 points in 54 seconds.
That was the story of the game, and that was it. And Georgia, look, give them credit. They had to go into the game with a backup quarterback. That's not an easy thing to do. I know a lot of people made jokes about Carson Beck, like he is better than Gunnar Stockton. Stockton's a better athlete, and he can run a little bit. But Beck has the ability, if he's not throwing interceptions, to beat you with his arm. Stockton doesn't really have that ability. But it doesn't matter who's playing. Like, you get to this point of the year, Notre Dame had an impressive win. That's the biggest win for that program in a very long time. And I did find myself, like, I like Marcus Freeman, man. I'm rooting for that guy to succeed. Brian Kelly left under the optics of you can't win at the highest level at Notre Dame. Like, we're always going to have a roof on what we can do.
Yeah.
I got to the playoff. I can't win a playoff game. I got to go down to the SEC in order to win. And here was Notre Dame, albeit against a backup quarterback. People won't remember that. They'll remember that they had one of the biggest wins in their program in the last 30 years.
We always, like, on a Sprague and Line Friday, we make comments like this from time to time. I wish we could have gambled on our apps. I would have hammered the under of 45.5.
Yeah, I don't know what Vegas was thinking with that number.
That
without
was
the fumble.
high.
I mean, without the turnover at the end of the first half too. That's a 6-3 game at halftime.
Oh, if they don't,
and then
get
a kickoff
that,
return for a touchdown. I mean, there's barely a touchdown scored in that game.
If they don't get that fumble and then the touchdown on the very next play, that final score is probably 13-10, 13-6. Like, that game was lucky to even get to 33 points. I'm with you on Marcus Freeman. Seems like he's so humble too, like very quiet. Molly McGrath liked her some Marcus Freeman.
She's into it.
She did.
Boy, the energy on those interviews.
The energy was strong.
Big smile. Big smile.
I told my wife, I go, a lot of people, they love this guy. Look how gorgeous he is. And she goes, well, she likes him too.
Yeah, good-looking guy, man.
But Notre Dame looked really good. And I understand that, a little bit of like, 54 seconds, 17 points. It's not going to happen every game. I am genuinely, and I can't believe I'm saying this, I think Penn State Notre Dame is going to be a really good football game.
I tend to agree with you.
Low scoring is where I would lean on that one. But I do think it's going to be a really physical, good football game that's going to send one of these two teams to the national championship. And now we are on the verge, Dirt. Because of Kirby Smart being eliminated yesterday, we are going to have a first-time national championship coach.
Yes, we will. Somebody's going to get there first.
Day, Freeman, or
James Franklin. I'm
going to need that to not happen in the worst possible way.
Here's what I'll say. I am excited for that semifinal game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. My opinion hasn't changed from yesterday. I don't see anybody or any of these teams beating Ohio State the way that they're playing, but who the hell knows, right? College football's been crazy this year. You don't say it very often, but in a game where we talked about this yesterday, right, with Landon getting outcoached by Ryan Day and Chip Kelly and what he schemed up, Kirby Smart got outcoached in that game.
Yes, he did.
The decision at the end of the first half to try and be aggressive with a backup quarterback bit them in the absolute butt. He said it. He was going in the locker room, and he's like, probably not the best idea. What do you want back from those last 2 minutes? We probably just ran the ball and gone into the locker room, and that would have benefited us. And then the play where, Notre Dame got a break because I thought their wide receiver jumped off sides, but incredibly smart for Notre Dame to throw a wrinkle there. He knew that Kirby didn't want to waste a timeout because they were down 23-10, so you're not going to want to blow a timeout in that situation. So run everybody onto the field, see if you can get them to jump off sides.
How do you jump there?
Worked off brilliantly, man. It worked out brilliantly for him.
That goes to your point yesterday, and Kirby said something in the postgame that I want to get to coming up next, but you said something yesterday that I think is fair, but again, these guys get paid the top dollar, where some of these things aren't a coach's fault, but
because they're yelling, "Don't jump off sides! Don't jump off sides! Don't jump off sides!"
But it reflects. I mean, at the end of the day,
guy jumps off
still
sides.
reflects the coaching. And I'm just like, I know Kirby Smart's a great coach. How is it? I'm almost like wondering, why is the defensive lineman even getting down? They're not running a play there.
Yeah.
They're hoping to get you off sides, and then they're going to give you the ball back, and you're just jumping?
give them a free first down.
Yeah, and
it ended up burning like 3 or 4 minutes off the clock because they were going to get it back down 23-10 with about 7 left, 7 and some change, and they ended up punting with like 2 minutes to go.
So we got Notre Dame, Penn State, Ohio State, Texas, just like everybody thought in the preseason. In
Top 4 teams are all out.
Top 4 teams
Everybody
are out.
with a bye was eliminated.
I want to talk about that. Kirby Smart was asked about that yesterday, so we'll get to that coming up, and then we'll dive into the NFL top of the hour. We got playoff seeding implications. The 1 seed is up for grabs. We've got a ticker guest coming up at 7:30. Eric Gunderson's going to join us. We got a lot to get to. Back with more college football talk next on The Fan.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Colin Cowherd.
Sam has played so well for 3 months straight. You know, I always do the Super Bowl bubble about once a month every 5 weeks. Here's my Super Bowl bubble. Green Bay's out. Minnesota is in. I think the Rams, the Packers, and the Chargers are still a year away.
This is a Football Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
On 1080 The Fan.
So Notre Dame advances. They beat Georgia 23-10 in a rescheduled or postponed college football game that we got 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon.
I mean, with our work schedule, I'll take a 1 o'clock football game if you want to give it to me during the week, but it did feel a little weird. It was just like, all right, well, middle of the day. All right, let's turn some football on.
Kirby Smart was asked, because you mentioned it before the break, that none of the teams that got rest won. It was all the teams that played the week prior. And Kirby Smart was asked about this in the postgame, and this is what he had to say.
Had a game last week versus we had 3 weeks without playing football, or at least playing a game.
I don't know. I mean, I look at what Vegas says, and it went kind of what Vegas said. You know what I mean? Like, at least in those two games. I guess ours was I don't know what it was close, but you know, two of those teams were better than the other teams, to be honest with you. You know, and that is what it is. That's more about the seeding process and where it is. But I'm not here to complain about anything. You know, given the opportunity, Notre Dame lost probably their best defensive player. So I don't know how that's an advantage.
So what two teams is he talking about? Is he talking about
I think
Penn
he's saying
State Ohio State?
I think he's talking about Ohio State and Notre Dame. I think he's saying that, you know, I don't think anybody was surprised that Penn State and Texas won their matchups. They were heavily favored to both win their matchups, and they did. Texas was a little close and uncomfortable. Penn State wasn't. I think he was talking about Ohio State and Notre Dame winning those games.
That they were better than...
That they were just better than the other team, and probably not wrong, the way that they played.
I can never quite tell with Kirby if he is talking about his own team, because I think he's a pretty accountable guy, but he's also very opinionated, which I appreciate.
I like that none of these coaches took the bait. They didn't go the Lane Kiffin route. Like, don't lose to Kentucky. Stop bitching about the system. That's our job to do in the media. It might be a fair argument, and I think it is, but that's not the head coach's job to do.
Well, that's the thing is yesterday was a lot of Oregon Duck talk, and, you know, I think given the circumstance, you did a good job, but, like, you're still probably processing thoughts and opinions on stuff. I know Schultz went in and did, you know, noon to 3 yesterday, and probably even today is still like, I don't really understand how that happened or why that happened, and those are things that maybe you come to conclusions on at some point, but it does need to be discussed. The 4 teams did lose.
They did. Now,
I don't think we should overreact to the first year of it. I do think the seeding stuff needs to change. Oregon should not be playing Ohio State in their first game.
When I would continue that, Georgia shouldn't have to play Notre Dame either. Georgia and Oregon should have played Arizona State and Boise State.
I tend to agree
Texas
with that.
and Penn State should have played Ohio State and Notre Dame.
I tend to agree with it, but they didn't play them this year, and all 4 of those rest teams lost.
Yeah.
And there's just a real opinion around that sport, whether they're a Duck fan or an SEC fan or whatever. There's just a real opinion that it was completely unfair and that you're asking a team to take almost a month off and then just play a team that just played a week prior. And that's all, you know, that goes to the whole rust versus rest thing. And you're right. The coaches didn't take the bait. They all gave their opponents credit, said they didn't play their best games. But the opinion of people is largely feels like it's kind of a weird system that you're asking a team to almost be off for a month while the other team gets a kind of a ramp-up game, and some of those teams got easier opponents.
Against an easy win in a ramp-up game.
That they got to kind of figure it out, get the gears going, and then go play a game where the other team's like, all right, let's stretch and get ready to play an actual physical football game, because you can't duplicate that stuff in practice. You don't want people to get hurt.
Well, and I think the other part of this people have pointed to is said, well, they've always had long layoffs, and, you know, BCS championship games, you're off for a month, and 14 playoff, you were off forever. The difference was that both teams were equal. There wasn't an advantage either way. You played your conference championship game for the most part, and then you were off for the same amount of time as your opponent. The schedule was exactly identical. That's not the case anymore. And for everything that I said about Oregon getting screwed in the seeding and having to play Ohio State right out of the gate, the same applies with Georgia. Like, this was the whole point of conference championship games having a weird feeling for me, is that Georgia and Oregon won those games. They won the 2 best conferences in the country, in the Big Ten and the SEC. If any 2 teams deserve to have an easy cakewalk path to a semifinal, it was those 2, because the regular season is supposed to mean something. It's still supposed to matter in the sport. And they unquestionably got harder paths to the Final Four than the 2 teams that lost their conference championship games. Penn State lost to Oregon. They got an easier path. Texas lost to Georgia, and they got an easier path. So I do want to figure out the rest versus rust thing and how that will look in years going forward. I tend to believe that had an impact on some of these games. The bigger issue, though, is remaining, and they will fix it this offseason. It's the seeding and easier paths.
So let me ask you this, because this is something that's too extreme for that sport to want to try to do, and we know they won't because they value what the most? The almighty dollar.
Yep.
The only fix to this problem, if this is a problem, by the way, next year, what if the top 4 bye teams, they win?
Well, I think it'd be slightly different, too, if you just fix the seeding and then maybe figure out what the bye rust thing. If, like, it's one thing to make a team sit around and then make them play the hardest or the second hardest team left in the bracket.
Well, but I would concede this. Like Arizona State also had to rest. They came back and they played good football and gave themselves a shot to win.
After a horrendous start in the first quarter.
No doubt about it. And I don't think that this would be a conversation centered about, like, making an excuse for Oregon in any way. I think it's okay to be rusty. I think it's another thing to get your ass whooped the way that they did. The only thing I can think about fixing this, aside from the seeding dirt, is you eliminate conference championship games and you basically punt on caring about them. And you don't even have to name a conference champion. You could just look at the records, and then it's just the ranking that determines how you play. Because if you eliminate that week, you then play the first round games
a little bit earlier.
And then the other team gets pushed up another week, and so they're only off 2 weeks, and the other team plays a game consecutively.
Yeah.
It's the only way I think that can get fixed outside of the obvious, which you mentioned, the seeding.
Yeah.
And maybe the seeding would fix this entirely, and you can still do conference championship game week. But in my mind, that was the only thing that made sense because these conferences are too big anyway. Like, you cannot tell me in good faith Clemson is the best team in the ACC this year. They won the conference championship because they beat SMU on like a 58-yard field goal, but they didn't play Miami. And I think Miami beats both of those teams. That doesn't mean it's right, but they didn't play each other. So you're going to have conference years where, if I'm not mistaken, I think Oregon misses Michigan and Ohio State next year, correct?
I believe you are correct, Bob.
So they'll play Penn State.
They get Penn State on the road.
And they'll play the rest of whoever it is in the Big Ten, but it's an 18-team conference.
Yeah, they do not get Michigan or Ohio. They get Michigan Ohio State both the next season again, like they did this year, but this year, the next year, they get Penn State.
So some years it's difficult. Some years you get a break. And so, like, my only thought, aside from the reseeding, and maybe that'll fix all of this, is you just eliminate a game that doesn't really do anything. We're watching Ohio State maybe potentially win the national championship. I watched them beat Penn State. They didn't even make their conference championship game.
No, they did not. They technically finished in 4th in the Big Ten.
I don't know how that would sit with people to not have a conference title winner or to say your team, because that's going to be a thing for Lanning and company, and it should be. We won the Big Ten.
We won the Big Ten. First year in the conference.
If you can't say that, I don't know if that sits right with people, but if the seeding doesn't fix this, that's kind of my solution. Just get rid of the game. You have too deep a conference. People miss each other. And then just start the playoffs, do everything a week earlier. But they're not going to do that. So maybe the seeding will fix it.
Yeah, I don't know what the path forward will be for the sport because your original point is the most important, and that is money is the driving force behind all of this. Yeah. And so conference championship games had massive numbers. The TV networks are not going to be willing to give them up. Oregon and Penn State had over 10 million viewers. I want to say Texas and Georgia was damn near 20. Like, that was a massive number. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to say, nah, don't worry about playing this game anymore. We're going to give up 20 million viewers on a Saturday in early December. It's just not going to happen. That's the tough part with it. I just think the two easiest fixes, and one of them is going to happen this offseason, is you seed based off college football playoff rankings. Now, that might be your favorite thing or your least favorite thing. We can all agree that Arizona State and Boise State getting buys was a bit of a ridiculous system because it threw everything else out of whack down the way. Clemson getting in also kicked a team out of the top 12 out. Like, the whole thing was a little discombobulated.
It was wonky,
and that needs to be fixed first and foremost.
Yeah.
And I will maintain. Now, we're going to need a bigger sample size because I don't see this changing necessarily in the short term, at least for next year. But as the time goes on in the playoff, I am going to keep an eye on how the teams with buys are impacted when they play their game. Because, as I said yesterday, this isn't an NFL bye where you get 1 week off and then you go play the next week. It's a month. And the team that you're playing also gets an extended period of time off, but they get a game in their home stadium that's a bit of a ramp-up confidence booster against, in this year's model, an easier playoff win. And so you're coming in feeling good. You're not off a month, and you've already played a game, so you're got a little momentum, and your timing is a little bit better. So I think all of that stuff impacted the playoff discourse this year. It was, though, a banner year for expansionists, as hard as it was for me to see my team lose.
Right.
In that the college football playoff this year, you would have had Oregon and Georgia, the top 2 teams. They didn't even make the Final Four, and that would have made up most of your Final Four going in the old 4-team model. So having all these teams kind of pull off upsets and go on runs, it's been a good argument for this is why you expand the college football playoff.
We have a lot to get to in the second hour of the program. Jimmy Butler's pissed. Pat Riley. What are you going to do, buddy? You going to give him his trade?
He's not going anywhere. Don't worry. He don't want to trade.
Heat culture.
He's not going anywhere.
I was told heat culture. Stars don't leave Miami is what I was told on Twitter a couple years ago. We'll get to that. Eric Gunderson will join us. We'll talk some NFL. Big potential games looming in the last week of the National Football League. Loaded second hour. Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan, the Odyssey app, and YouTube.
Where will 2025 take you? With an education from University of Maryland Global Campus, it could
Dirt and Sprague on Football Friday on 1080 The Fan.
The autumn wind is a pirate, blustering in from sea. With a rollicking song, he sweeps along, swaggering boisterously.
This is a Football Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app. Download the Odyssey app, follow 1080 The Fan, and enable push notifications to get the latest on the Ducks, Beavers, Blazers, and more.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Hour 2, Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan, the Odyssey app, 99.5 HD2, and, of course, youtube.com/1080 AM The Fan. It is a Football Friday edition as we talk to the college football playoff. Some thoughts coming in. I want to read a couple of them in just a second. It is a Sprague and Line Friday, so get the Sprague and Line sponsors in at the Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. They treat you right before, during, and after the sale. Visit them at vancouverford.com in the year of our Lord 2025. Here's a couple thoughts on the college football playoff reseeding since none of the teams that got rest won. And again, we love to talk about this stuff out loud, but maybe next year all 4 teams will win. And so, like, some of this stuff could matter, and some of this stuff may fundamentally change very, very quickly because of the reaction that we're getting from a lot of fans. Here's one that I wanted to read. This is the problem and why it's weird now, because the conferences are settled. I think having the 4 bye teams get a home game too, and then Final 4 back to bowl games would help a lot, which is something we have echoed. I think it's completely unfair for the top 4 teams
to not get a home playoff
to not have a home playoff game. I mean, like, Ohio State may have very well beaten Oregon that way, no matter the venue. But it should have been in Eugene, Oregon.
Yes.
But it wasn't. So I've always kind of thought that was unfair. Somebody else says they need to reseed, keep the champ games, or keep them. The first 2 rounds need to be on campuses of the higher-ranked team. So another sentiment of having a home game. And somebody else says definitely the sports need reseeding. But from what we saw, that wouldn't have made a difference this year. I will ask you, I want to get to some NFL stuff. We got a lot of NFL interesting little things looming in the National Football League. Eric Gunderson's going to join us at the bottom of the hour. Jimmy Butler's hot and pissed. He's demanding a trade.
Yes, he is.
It's public now.
Very public.
Boy, what a press conference that was last night. We'll get to that audio. Are you excited for the semifinal?
I am. I absolutely am.
These matchups are exciting to you because you've already been on the record. You think Ohio State's going to blow out Texas?
I do. I do think Ohio State's going to run away with it.
I don't know exactly how you feel, but maybe we're in lockstep that Penn State, Notre Dame will be a good game, but
I don't see a big edge either way there. Yeah. Notre Dame's elite defensively. Penn State can get funky and play with their food from time to time, but they have tremendous skill position players, a better passing attack than Notre Dame does. Probably lean Notre Dame defensively, Penn State offense.
So here is, just to get your thoughts, this is the Final 4. This is what the playoff would have been in the 4-team format. Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Penn State.
Yes, it would have.
We wouldn't have got Notre Dame.
Nope.
Wouldn't have gotten Ohio State.
Nope.
No Tennessee. Indiana's quarterback reportedly played with a torn ACL all year.
He did, yeah. Had an ACL tear all season.
Give him the Heisman. That's unbelievable. Boise wouldn't have made it, obviously. No SMU, no Arizona State. Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Penn State. So that would have been Oregon, Penn State, a rematch of the Big Ten title game.
Yeah, it would have been 2 rematches.
It would have been 2 rematches.
They would have modified the seeding, I think, to have it be Oregon versus Texas. Maybe not. Who knows? But in the old 14 format, I would imagine
they probably would have tweaked
Oregon versus Texas and Georgia versus Penn State.
But
probably
how do you have Penn
State
State go to 3 after losing?
I know. They make it up as they go. There are no rules here, man. There are no rules.
Yeah.
But I am excited. Look, it's obviously tough when your team gets their teeth kicked in on national TV, and so it kind of drains a little bit of your excitement. The networks are thrilled. The networks, I should say, ESPN is thrilled. The brands you're getting in the Final Four this year, Notre Dame versus Penn State, 2 of the biggest brands in the sport.
Yep.
On the other side, obviously, Ohio State being in the mix against Texas. They haven't played since 2009, I believe, in the Fiesta Bowl. And the irony of that is whoever loses that game, you know who their next game will be against? The other one. because they play in the first game of the season next year. That's a non-conference game next year. Texas versus Ohio State. So whoever loses the game is going to have a chance to redeem it to kick off.
Yeah, that redemption
2025
won't
quite feel the same, but they're going to get a chance at it next year. Like, I tend to think that Ohio State's going to run away with it. I just think they're the most complete football team. They've settled their offensive line question. They have better weapons than any of the teams that are left in the playoff. They can run the football. They can play elite level defense. None of the other teams boast the balance that Ohio State has currently. Notre Dame's defense is elite. They threw for 90 yards against Georgia, right? Penn State has shown against elite offenses they can get torched. It happened to them in the Big Ten title game. So I tend to think that Ohio State's going to run away with it. But both of the games are exciting and intriguing. Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame versus Penn State's going to be a lot of fun.
I don't want to beat a dead horse. I know that people think I do, but I don't. But I have to ask this because it's the next day, right? Yeah, it was yesterday. Now it's the next day. I kept coming yesterday to the thought in my head watching these games. Dan Lanning has to be sitting in his house still like in shock.
Yeah.
That happened to him and his team, right?
Absolutely.
And again, we may not have definitive answers for things, but I am curious, have you squared anything in your mind with what you saw?
No, I have not.
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay.
You tell me Oregon loses, that's fine. Ohio State might be the best team in the country, and they seemingly are hitting their gear at the right time. 34-0 in the first half doesn't compute in my brain. I saw those two teams play with my own eyes earlier this season. You could say Ohio State should have won that game, whatever. That's fine.
Whatever.
Howard gets down, he kicks. That's fine. They were competitive. They were toe-to-toe at a lot of different positions. They handled themselves well at the line of scrimmage. All the things that they could not do the second time around, they did the first time around, and I don't know how to square that.
I don't think it should be squared. I did hear from a friend whose best friend is a diehard Duck fan, and his friend's theory as a diehard Duck fan.
Love a good theory. Give me a good theory.
A good theory. You're not going to like this theory.
Uh-oh, what's a theory?
He doesn't think that they really prepared, that he just basically took his team and said, we're undefeated conference champs, bitch. We're going to win. We have the Jimmies and the Joes. And
don't think that's the case.
Well, not like actually didn't prepare, but more just said, we're just going to do what we did last time. We're going to win again.
Yeah, I don't think that's quite the case.
I didn't think
but
you liked that theory.
Appreciate a good theory nonetheless.
Well, look, everybody's scrambling for answers.
Everybody's trying to figure it out, man.
You know?
I had a buddy who thought the whole team was high because there was the viral video of Dylan Gabriel talking to Brenna Green where he was talking about playing in front of sun and on grass, and everybody thought he was stoned out of his mind.
I saw that video, and I kind of just thought that's who he is.
He also, like, Brenna Green came out and was like, it was 8 o'clock in the morning. They had been doing an hour and a half of interviews. Like, he was just loopy and ready, tired. And it was an early wake and bake right out of the gate in Los Angeles. So she confirmed that he was not high, but I had a buddy floating that theory at me. Whole team was high, man.
You know what's interesting? and look, Duck fans not exempt from this. I think Husky fan does this. Cougar fans probably done. Beaver fan certainly probably has. It's interesting when Oregon didn't play well, there was always something on a message board. They had COVID.
Yeah,
they all had COVID. They didn't play well against Idaho. They all had COVID. Like, do we know that for
Big Ten title game was the flu game for the defense.
Yeah, they all look. Yeah, they're all sick.
Everybody's
That's why the defense didn't play particularly well.
Yeah. And then in the Rose Bowl, they just had to play an NFL team, evidently.
Well,
so,
and they were all so high.
They were high, completely high, completely high. Like that's the thing where I hope it comes across. Like Oregon lost and they got embarrassed. They don't deserve to be in the playoff anymore. That they played terribly in their biggest game of the year. Like all of that stuff is true. Nobody on this side of the argument is pushing against that. What I also hope the other side will acknowledge that we can find some common ground in this is that they did get screwed. Having to play Ohio State in their first playoff game at a team that they had already beaten this year, a team with that level of talent, like that was ridiculous. Time off, whatever. You can agree or disagree with that.
Right.
The seeding in the format of the playoff, Georgia and Oregon had harder paths to the national championship than Penn State and Texas. That is a ridiculous formula, or a format, I should say, that will get changed this offseason, and we'll see by next year if that changes who we end up getting in the semifinals.
I think ultimately, no matter what your thoughts are on why Oregon looked the way they did or lost, I do think generally my takeaway is that is kind of the universal opinion.
Yeah, and I think
you can hate the Ducks all you want. I think everybody would concede the reseeding situation, and I think McMurphy's already – they're going to change it, so obviously it's a problem. But I would also go back – I'd go back to the committee here, and they're going to change it to the ranking result. What I would say to the committee, and I made an offhanded, not serious comment at some point during the season of, like, I hope the committee gives us the tasty matchup that gives me excitement for it. Now, the example I used is Mario playing Oregon.
Yeah, if Miami got in.
If Oregon had lost and Miami had gotten in and Miami had to go to Eugene.
Cook the books a little bit. Give me a fun game.
Well, they already do. Did they not do it last year?
They make it up as they go.
Florida State, you lost Jordan Travis. Goodbye. Don't care. You're undefeated. We're putting Alabama in. And so, like, they already cooked the books. This is well established and documented.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they didn't cook the books for this. There was, you can point, Sprague, look at the rankings a week prior. And they cooked the books before. Yeah. Why would they not have cooked the books again? How do you not take into account Boise State? God bless you. I give you the
hell
salute.
Of a season. You deserve to be in the playoffs.
Genty was just as deserving to win the Heisman as Hunter. All of that. You're a group of 5 team.
You should not have a
first
round
You got to play
bye.
Wyoming and San Jose State.
Your best win was UNLV.
And UNLV. And, like, those were good for you.
Yes.
You shouldn't have had a bye. What are we doing? And so, like, the committee, to me, it's not just about reseeding. We wouldn't have the reseeding debate had the committee done their mother effing job the right way this year. This wouldn't be a topic, but they didn't. They chose to be stupid, and now they're dealing with the stupid consequences.
Well, and somebody said this is a ridiculous argument. If you're the best team, go beat the team that you play.
And I do fundamentally agree with that.
I'm not making an argument that Oregon would have won a national title if they didn't have to play Ohio State in their first playoff game, because eventually you were going to likely have to beat that Ohio State team. Does the game go differently if you have a ramp-up game at home against SMU to kind of work the kinks out in the middle of December at home, feeling good? Maybe. I don't know. The way that they played on 2 days ago, it didn't look like Oregon had the ability to beat them at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. Why this stuff is important is because perception, one, and financial resources, two. Like, James Franklin is now a guy who has 2 playoff wins under his belt.
Yeah.
How many does Dan Lanning have?
Yeah, Mr. 1-13.
Right, but who's the better
CFP wins?
He has 2 college football playoff wins, and Dan Lanning has, and that's a thing, right? And that's going to be used in recruiting.
It doesn't need to be a thing.
It doesn't need to be a thing, but it will be a thing. They're in the semis. Oregon beat them. It didn't matter. They got the easier path. And like somebody's saying, look at the Oregon-Boise State game earlier this year. You tell me that's an easy win. I'm not saying it's an easy win.
No.
Texas-Arizona State was not an easy win for Texas. There is not a person alive with a brain that if I told you, who would you rather play to get to the semifinals? SMU at home and Boise State on a neutral field or Ohio State? They would say, yeah, give me Ohio State. I'd rather play them. Not a person alive that would choose that path, and that's the path that the team got that Oregon beat in the Big Ten championship game. I got into this debate. Somebody saying, where were all these complaints leading into the playoff?
We talked about it.
I've been bringing this up for months, man. I got into a debate with Dusty like 2 months ago. I was here late one day. He got here early, and this is leading in toward the end of the season, and I said, man, I think I'd rather have the 5 seed than the 1 seed. And he looked at me like I was crazy. So he'd rather have the time off. He'd rather have the rest. And I just thought, based on this format where you're going to get a Big 12 champ who is not on par with the other conference champs, and maybe a Group of 5 champ, if the ACC doesn't grab it, getting first-round buys, it's going to throw everything out of whack. Now, likely it's going to get fixed this offseason, but both things can be true at the same time. Oregon played terrible. They were embarrassed on national television. That's true. The format of this playoff is also ridiculous, and it rewards teams in the model that it should not reward because of the regular season.
We didn't get to the NFL there. Let's pivot a little bit. We've had a lot of college football talk. The thoughts are coming in at the Vancouver Ford text line. We appreciate them, even though, we are idiots doing the show. We would well acknowledge that, but I like the differing opinions on this. To me, this isn't an Oregon excuse thing. I don't root for the Ducks. If my team would have gotten the overall 1 seed and that was the reward, I would also been a little slighted and angered by that. But again, they didn't play to the level they should have. They did not play good football, and they lost. They got bumped. It's more just how you set it up and what it's going to be different next year. So if it's different next year,
they're changing the format because they are acknowledging that it's a bad format. They're literally going to change it 1 year in.
That's my point. Is like you can disagree and think it's an excuse. I don't think it is. Oregon got their teeth kicked in.
Yeah.
To me, the committee and the sport acknowledging and changing is kind of our point. Like they screwed this up.
The same applies for Georgia. Would you rather play Notre Dame in your first playoff game or Arizona State? Maybe they lose to Arizona State.
very well
Maybe
could.
they could have.
Scatterboo was awesome.
They damn near beat
The
Texas.
SEC's overrated.
There is nobody that is
We all know
choosing to
that.
play Notre Dame over Arizona State. There just isn't.
I love that conference just got embarrassed this year. It was great. It may never happen again in my life, but this year it will always.
Now watch Texas win a national championship and they claim it.
Well, that's a Big 12 team.
It is a SEC team technically.
Let's get to the NFL next on the Fan.
The Seahawks are out of the playoffs. This is a Football Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
on 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. God, I love people. I love sports. I love disagreeing. It's great.
I hate all of you. I love all of you. Happy Friday.
Spray and Line Friday.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm going to have the final trump card on this thing. Oh, it's just an excuse. Then why are they changing the format?
I mean, that's kind of, yeah.
Why are they going to change it?
Yeah.
If it's just an Oregon excuse thing, why is it getting ripped up after 1 year?
Well, so how many times can you say, like, Oregon didn't deserve it? Oregon lost.
They got
Oregon
killed.
got killed and embarrassed. They got pants with a little wiener hanging out.
Yes.
How many times can you say that before also saying, like, it's stupid and they're going to change it because we're right?
And no other sport would, like in the NCAA tournament, when you get a random team that wins a conference, you punch your ticket to March Madness. It's a big deal. They don't give that team a number one seed in the bracket. That's the point. If you win the Horizon League, you don't get a number one seed. You're just in the tournament. Welcome to the tournament. Do you know where Boise State was ranked in the final poll? 9th. Yeah. They gave the 9th-ranked team a first-round bye. Arizona State was 12th. They gave them a first-round bye.
Let's punt on college football talk. We've had a lot of it so far.
Yes,
Didn't
move
expect
on.
to lead the second hour of the show with it, but, you know, here we are.
We got to wait till next Thursday now. Then the playoffs pick back up.
The NFL has greatly, since the concussion lawsuit, talked about how much they value player health. We're getting ready for Week 18.
One more game. One more game. Keith, I want another one. Give me Week 19, baby.
We have Saturday football. Browns-Ravens. Feel the mojo, baby.
Feel the mojo and a 20-point spread.
Yeah.
But Baltimore technically needs to win, I believe, to win the division because if they lose, their division record would fall below Pittsburgh if Pittsburgh beats Cincinnati later on Saturday.
And then following that game, you've got Cincinnati playing for their playoff lives at Pittsburgh, 5 o'clock on ABC or ESPN. So we got Saturday football, and as you mentioned, division. Also, there's seeding involved here. Now, assuming Baltimore beats Cleveland, who is starting DTR, and
yes, it's a 20-point spread. It's in Baltimore. You imagine that's a lot.
I don't know how much Lamar and Derrick Henry are going to play, but I'd imagine they're going to win that game.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh is going to still be playing for seeding in this, and Cincinnati's playing for their playoff lives.
Yes, they are.
So that game has interest. You then go to the next day, Sunday. The Falcons are still playing hopeful for their division lives. And the wild card, I believe. I'll go look at the actually, no.
I don't think they're alive in the wild card.
It's
just the division, yes.
They're playing the Panthers. The Commanders are playing the Cowboys, who suck. But the Commanders are also playing for seeding still.
Yes, they are.
Because if they finish the season tied with Green Bay, they win the tiebreaker, and Green Bay's a 6 seed or the 7 seed.
And Washington's a 6 seed.
Yeah. Yes. Green Bay, as I mentioned, they're playing the Bears. And then you scroll a little bit. You've got the Bucs playing for their division crown against the Saints, which I would imagine they're going to clinch that. The Saints are terrible.
You would think so.
The Chiefs play the Broncos in Denver. Denver wins. They're in. The Chiefs are going to play Carson Wentz. And then the Chargers are at the Raiders. The Chargers are playing for seeding as well until maybe Pittsburgh clinches it and Baltimore clinches it.
Right.
And then in that case, the Chargers aren't playing for anything. So we get to make picks today.
We do.
On games that may matter Sunday or also may not matter Sunday.
Yeah.
And so I would just advise everybody, gambling on games this weekend, kind of dumb and very risky.
It is incredibly risky because you and I both had the same thought of looking at the Charger-Raider game where the Chargers are technically going into the weekend still playing for something. That's only a 4.5-point spread. And you just see it and you're like, what?
It's 4 now. It's dropped.
It's dropped a little bit, right? Now, this was also the case last week. That line going to New England for the Chargers made literally no sense, and I made a lot of money on that game, and I'd like to thank Vegas for it.
Yeah.
This one is similar. However, if you gamble on that game on a Friday, know that if the Steelers win on Saturday night, the Chargers might not play people.
Well, they wouldn't need to.
They wouldn't need to because
concrete.
you're locked into the number 6 seed. The Steelers would have, whether the Chargers win or lose, they have the tiebreaker because they beat them earlier this season in Pittsburgh. So you need one domino to fall in order for that bet to make sense. If you're a believer in Cincinnati going on the road to Pittsburgh and winning on Saturday night, then Chargers minus 4.5 seems like the absolute lock of the century because that would lay them up to get to the 5 seed, which they're desperately trying to get to because there's not a person alive that wants to play Baltimore instead of Houston in the first round of the playoffs.
And to wrap it all up on Sunday Night Football, we get just a doozy.
Best game of the weekend. Not even close.
Minnesota at Detroit.
Maybe the game of the year in the NFL.
Sub field goal. Vikings are 6-1 on the road. The Lions are 14-2. This is for the 1 seed, and the other team's going to have to go on the road in the NFL playoffs. I remember the first game. I gambled on the Lions.
It was an entertaining game.
That was a great football game. I cannot wait for this one because I feel like there's going to be the Lions are too banged up to win the whole thing is the takeaway if they lose.
Mm-hmm.
The Vikings lose, and it's, there's Sam Darnold.
There he
can't win. That's the one he can't win.
That's the one.
Those are kind of the two takeaways looming aside from the seeding of being the overall 1 seed and a 14-3 team having to be a wild card going to potentially Tampa Bay.
Look, we're just off the heels of complaining about one playoff format, so let's complain about another one.
Well, this one's never changing.
It's never going to change,
Never
but
changing.
that doesn't mean we can't call it out for an absolute ridiculous level of stupidity. Never in the history of the NFL have we had a 14-win team not win a division and have to go on the road in the playoffs. This never happened before. There's been a 13-win team. I can't remember what year it was. I think it was early 2000s. There was like a Titans team that won 13 games that somehow didn't win the division because the other team had 13 wins, and it was a tiebreaker scenario. So we've had a 13-win team have to go on the road in the playoffs. Never happened with a 14-win team, and it's an absolute shame because they have been two of the best teams in the NFL all year. Their fan bases deserve a home playoff game. To be 14-3 and not rewarded for that, it's ridiculous because you happen to play in the best division in the NFL.
There was a clip that circulated yesterday of Kevin O'Connell on the sidelines of their last game. And I always think coaches do this, but some coaches probably don't. And he's basically, before he tells Darnold to play, he's like, hey, let him know this, and this.
Yeah, I saw that video.
And then he goes, and you're doing great, man. You're really doing awesome. I'm proud of you, man. And then the clip cuts, and you proceed to probably call the play, so they can't give that away. But
wholesome content, man. I love him as a head coach.
I thought the video, Darnold getting showered with water and being carried on the shoulders was cool. The other video I liked more was in the background of Darnold being hoisted on shoulders was Kevin O'Connell just watching his locker room be like that.
Just like, man, this is what I created. How badass is this?
Honestly, that's why those guys coach. Yeah. They think they can create culture and winning, and he did it. And he has been pretty damn good so far in Minnesota. They reportedly want to keep Sam Darnold. It's just, you tell me the Lions are 14-3 or 15-2 this year, I'm not batting an eye. The fact that Minnesota has a chance to be 15-2
with Sam Darnold at quarterback.
Their over-under, I think, was 7.
See, that sounds about right.
7.5.
Them and Denver, probably the two. Maybe there's one I'm missing. Denver's was 5.5, and they easily hit the over. Minnesota obviously easily hit the over.
Yeah, and then we're gonna have a 14-win 5 seed. Why is nobody in the bitching about the NFL playoffs?
Because this doesn't
we're used to it
enough. It doesn't happen as frequently. I mean, go look at the history of this, to Dirt's point. This is like historic.
14-win teams never not had the number 1 seed.
I mean, I know most of the seasons have been 16 games not playing 17.
That's the difference, sure.
But still, to have this circumstance where these two teams are this great, be in the same division, usually it's an AFC-NFC thing. To have it in the same division, it's remarkable. It really is. It's just a rarity. And again, it is unfair to our earlier conversation.
Tampa gets to beat up on the Saints and host a playoff game this weekend or next weekend.
Yeah, and if Tampa wins and hosts that game, maybe you give them a shot against a Minnesota or Detroit at home because Baker as a home dog can be a little feisty and dangerous.
It's a lot of parity.
But these are two such well-coached, great teams. They didn't even really need to play and win that game in San Francisco, and they just came back and just out-physicaled them. And so, watching Detroit do that when they didn't necessarily need to, that was awesome. Well-coached team. I'm so looking forward to the madness of the weekend, but this game in particular, I'm going to be doing a gambling show Sunday night, but man, I'll have the popcorn ready as soon as I'm getting off that show.
I think it's a big challenge for Detroit's defense to build confidence going into the playoffs. Just where are you? Last time we saw them was on Monday Night Football. They gave up 34 points to a banged-up and a little bit of a cobbled 49ers team. Purdy went out late in that game. They obviously don't have a ton of their studs on offense. So I think defensively they'd like to build a little confidence. The only question we have about Detroit at this point in the year is their health in the front seven. And can they play well against Detroit? If they can, I think it gives you a little confidence that they're overcoming some of those injuries as the year ends, and that defense won't be the reason that they fall short of winning a championship.
Oh, 100%. I think if you lean in anything, you're betting it over in this game, and it's 56.5, right?
Yeah, I mean, I hit the over in Minnesota, Green Bay last week. That was one of my Sprague and line picks, and it didn't look great early, and then Green Bay woke up late and scored some points. This seems like fireworks everywhere. Detroit scores on literally everybody, and right
Detroit's
now their
defense is banged
defense
up.
is an absolute sieve, so the over seems like the play.
We'll get back into more NFL. We'll obviously Sprague the line at 8:30. Coming up next, let's talk a little hoops. The NBA started on Christmas Day. Dirt's not watching it still, but the NBA season has started. Our beloved Blazers played yesterday on a Univision channel that I didn't find. And I want to play a clip for Gundy. Eric Gunderson's going to join us, Blazer Banter. He long argues the NBA's in a good spot, even though everybody in America argues the opposite. I want to play a clip for him. And so we'll talk with Eric Gunderson for the Daily Ticker next on The Fan.
This is a Football Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update is brought to you by Vulcan Design and Construction. Check out their award-winning outdoor living designs or schedule your free design consultation at vulcandc.com. First on The Fan, a big win for Notre Dame in the college football playoff. The 7th seed beating 2-seeded Georgia in the quarterfinals, 23-10 the final. Riley Leonard had 170 all-purpose yards, threw for a touchdown. Jaden Harrison took a kick return back to the house from 98 yards out. The Fighting Irish now moving on to face Penn State in the Orange Bowl next Thursday. In the association, the Blazers losing to the Lakers down in Los Angeles to tip off a 5-game road trip, 114-106 the final. 40-year-old LeBron James going off for 38 points. Ant Simons leading the way for Portland with 23. Elsewhere in the league, 6-time All-Star Jimmy Butler telling the Miami Heat he wants out. He is asking for a trade, but did not give the team a list of favored destinations. He is reportedly open to playing anywhere. And on the college hardwood, 22nd ranked Illinois handing number 9 Oregon their second loss of this season. 109-77 the final down in Eugene. Oregon now 1-2 in conference play. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Tired of getting dinged by subscriptions? We won't send you a bill. Portland's sports leader, 1080. Some stories can slip through the cracks.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules.
Pelican Brewing presents the Daily Ticker, where Dirt and Sprague hit the big stories you've heard about, and some you haven't.
How'd you do that? Actually, I'm not even mad. It's amazing.
The Daily Ticker with Dirt and Sprague is poured by Pelican Brewing, your local coastal brewery. Independently brewing since 1996. Pelican Brewing. Born at the beach.
All right, Daily Ticker time brought to you by Pelican Brewing, now offering their signature Pelican West Coast IPA on a shelf near you. Raise your glass, drink on. Pelican Brewing, born at the beach. So who's going to get Jimmy Butler?
I think Pat Riley is mandated to send him where he wants to go.
Like he's got to go do that? He's got to go help him out?
Well, I mean, look,
find him the right landing
if he
spot?
wants to go to the Knicks, Pat Riley better make that happen, man.
Because that's the way it works with GMs.
Well, you can't treat your stars. You can't not give them what they want. Isn't that what they told us in Miami?
You got to bend over to whatever the stars demand.
Absolutely.
You got to trade them where they want to go.
I cannot wait for him to basically become Joe Cronin.
That's exactly what he's going to be.
Absolutely,
he's going to die on a hill, and he's not going to give him away for spare parts and just send him wherever he wants to go. I saw in the reporting that he said he will accept a trade anywhere, so he's not making demands. But I'm sure behind the scenes that's different.
Well, we'll get to the cut. Probably after Gundy, but man, he basically said he'd be happy anywhere in the league except Miami on the court.
He did, which is not an encouraging quote. Now, let me ask you this. What level of a game changer is this? What level of a game changer is Jimmy Butler at this point in his career? Depending, obviously,
on where he's going.
Depending on where let's use the Knicks as an example. I don't even know how the hell you make that work with all their wings and the deals they made this offseason. Like, is that the move? Cleveland getting him? Orlando,
why would Cleveland do that? Cleveland has the best record in the NBA. The Knicks don't make any sense. They're red hot right now.
Thunder using some of their future draft capital would make any sense? No?
I said this about last year's Thunder team. I'm glad they didn't make a big move. I think it was Gordon Hayward was their biggest in-season move.
And that one backfired a little bit on him, and they acknowledged it at the end of the year.
Yeah, maybe.
But it didn't take a lot of capital to go get him. That was the only, it was a minor move.
So OKC doesn't make any sense. It's... is it maybe? I don't even know who it is. Houston reportedly has no interest in giving up their assets for it. So that's the tough part is they have an option thing with $52 million to pick up. He's making this toxic now. He's shooting 1-foot threes, like one-footed three-pointers.
He's going James Harden fat guy bodysuit. Like he's just not trying anymore.
100% he is. And so like I don't know where the destination really is. Could be somewhere dumb like Toronto. You just, hey, Jimmy, come play in Toronto.
We're going to send you there.
And you play young guys. Yeah, you play with young guys. I don't know who it is, and I don't know if that team is really a contender. We also don't even know if Pat Riley sent out a statement, an official statement that said, we're not trading you.
We're not trading you.
So,
and his agent came out at the time that Shams originally was reporting it, basically said none of this is true. He's not demanding a trade. He doesn't want to go anywhere. Keep my name out your mouth. Like he came out with a very emphatic statement when all this stuff started going down. And boy, oh boy, did that end up being wrong. It is funny in hindsight, too, to look at where Dame obviously demanded the trade 2 years ago, wanted to go to Miami, really wanted to be a Heat. That was the whole point of him demanding a trade. Cronin doesn't bend over backwards. The comments from Heat fans about you just got to give him what he wants. How do you not do that? In hindsight now, like I know Milwaukee had a bad end to their year last year, and Milwaukee got off to a really tough start this season in their year. But they won the cup, which the NBA tells me that means something. They are a cup champion. And I don't think anybody would debate. Now, I know their records are the same, Milwaukee and Miami at this point in the season. But, like, if you look at the overall health of an organization, now maybe this changes and Giannis demands a trade in, like, 6 months. Who knows? But, like, you would much rather be in Milwaukee right now than you would Miami if your goal is to win an NBA championship.
Well, there were other things behind the scenes with Dame in Miami that I don't want to publicly talk about that may have been
It wasn't just basketball.
It wasn't just basketball. It would have been a good basketball situation for him because Hero, by the way, Tyler Hero having a good year.
Yeah, they were coming off their finals appearance, too, when he demanded the trade.
So I get from a basketball thing, but there were other things that were involved there. And certainly going to Milwaukee thinking you're going to Miami is, wow, that's an adjustment. But you got to play with Giannis.
Yeah, and he's still playing with Giannis, and they're in the playoff picture now in the Eastern Conference.
And they're maybe figuring this out a little bit. Middleton has come back now for a couple weeks. So I just think the whole thing it's fascinating given what Miami fans were doing to Portland fans of
14 months ago, 16 months ago.
How do you not give your star what he wants? And we have the real culture, and here you are, fast forward.
Heat culture.
He is openly basically saying, I hate it here.
I am not happy
here. I
don't
want to play here anymore.
He said, I'm happy off the floor, but I'm not happy on the floor. I believe we have him now, Eric Gunderson, Blazer Banter. We get the right phone number now? Do we figure it all out?
What's wrong with your phone, Gundy? We called you 9
Answer
straight
the damn
times.
phone, Gundy. What are you doing? Are you on the toilet right now?
It goes to voicemail.
I have no idea what's going on with that. I literally I had my phone off of Do Not Disturb. This is the I don't know what my phone is doing. I don't know. Maybe my phone is the problem. But either way, I'm here, guys.
He's here.
So I'm glad I made it.
Eric Gunderson is our guest. Blazer Banter on Twitter. Go give him a follow. Check out his Substack covering the Blazers. And we have a few things we want to ask you about, Gundy, league-wide. I'll start. Can you confirm or deny that the Blazers are now available widely without an antenna? We're really confused right now.
Couldn't find it last night.
Well, no. So the YouTube TV situation is a disaster. It seems like, and the channel that is supposed to be the Blazers channel, KUNP, is being blocked locally on YouTube TV. So. I hope you got Blazer Vision or an antenna.
Wait, I thought that deal was supposed to take over on 1-1, though. What happened? Why are we still being blocked from watching games? Do you have any answers on that?
I don't have any answers on that. I wish I did. But yeah, no, it's all I know is it's not working, and that's all I know is it's not working. So yeah, man. I mean, it's just a bummer, man.
Things are going great.
It's like I guess. Yeah, things are going great, man. It's just a classic classic Blazers moment right there.
I want to ask you, we're talking about Jimmy Butler before you got you on the horn, and we're all laughing today here in Portland because of what all of those people said to us during the Dame stuff. Send him where he wants. We have the culture. Stars want to be here. And here's Jimmy Butler saying, I don't have joy anymore. And that's, boy, that to say what he said and how he said it, that's going to go down all time, one of the greatest I want to be traded. And so, like, I'm fascinated to see where this goes. What is the team, though, for Jimmy Butler? If Miami is going to go against what they said in a statement a week ago, what is the team that makes sense for him? Because I think reportedly the Rockets don't want it. Why would the Knicks give up what they're doing? The Cavs are amazing. The Celtics aren't doing it. The Warriors, I don't think, have the juice. Like, who is the team that makes sense to trade for Jimmy Butler?
I mean, I think the last team you said is probably the team that makes the most sense just because I don't know. I was really high on Golden State early in the year. They looked so good, especially that opener in Portland. And then, they continued rolling and they were like first in the West. And then the wheels kind of fell off. And late in games, you really just see how much they need one more guy to take the pressure off of Steph because all these teams can just load up on whatever he's doing and they make someone else beat them. And, the D'Anthony Melton injury hurt, but I really think they need one more dude. And I think, with Steph shooting and some of the coaching, I think it would be probably the best fit for Jimmy. Cause I don't think the Lakers are that good of a fit. Like him and LeBron really kind of controlling the ball in the same way. I don't think it would work that well. Honestly, I think Golden State's the only thing that really makes that much sense to me. Because none of the bad teams like Portland and anyone else or Brooklyn are going to dip their toe in the Jimmy pool, I don't think.
That would be what? Are we trading for Jimmy Butler? Are we going to go get Jimmy Butler this offseason? Let's do it.
I don't think
move.
they want to do business with us ever again.
I want to read a tweet from one Blazer Banter on Twitter.
Okay,
and this is when somebody sends something like this out, they're preaching to my choir.
Oh, okay.
This is when I go to church of the Blazer Banter Substack. And it was from this past weekend, and it read, I'm sure that Scoot doing well these last two games is totally a coincidence. Follow-up tweet, it could never be that the team fumbled the most important developmental investment they made since deciding, okay, the greatest player in franchise history isn't enough. What do we make of the coaching situation, the minute situation? Where are we at on all of that, Gundy? Because it has beaten me down at this point in the season to where I'm just kind of waiting for the deadline, and then I'll start following a little more closely. I'm just tired of watching Anthony Simons play basketball.
Thought it was Christmas Day.
That's my take. Now, the league hasn't started yet. Wait, when the NFL playoffs are over, then the league starts.
Okay.
Where are we at on the coaching situation and the minutes distribution after Chauncey missed a couple of games and they went 2-0?
Yeah, it just feels like everyone's just going through the motions. You know what I mean? Like Chauncey's going through the motions, the team's going through the motions when he's there. It just doesn't feel like there's a cohesive thing happening. And when Scoot plays so well and he finishes the game and you just realize, oh yeah, wait a minute, he's been a backup point guard, and then when he's out there with Simons, he's stuck in the corner. After the game, he says, very subtly, I'd rather do that than be in the corner. Literally says it to Brooke after his game winner. And it's just it just seems like, all the things Scoot hasn't looked good for most of his career so far. But the Blazers have totally messed this up by keeping Simons around. And I like Simons. He had a great game last night. He basically kept them in it single-handedly, him and Danny Avdia. But he's in the way of Scoot, of the Blazers figuring out what they actually have in Scoot. And it's other bust type people that people have thrown the comparison to with Scoot, which, it's not, it's been what's happening, like Emmanuel Mudiay and people like that. Those guys got to start. Those guys got to play.
Right.
Those guys got to play extended minutes. And it's the fact that they're not doing that with Scoot is it's preventing them from figuring out what they have. And, maybe they're the word is, oh, we see it in practice or in camp or whatever. It's but the game is really what matters the most. And if you're not seeing what you have in Scoot in these games, that's an organizational failure to me.
Final one, because we're already against it since your phone sucked. It definitely wasn't our fault. We've never had phone issues here on this end.
I think he was on the toilet.
It definitely was the bathroom.
Okay, yeah. We'll keep that rolling. Yeah.
Yeah, keep it rolling. Last one for you on that, though. So you're highlighting a pretty important part. I was also kind of saying this here in the offseason of, so we're just going to have a lame duck year, and we're just cool with that, and year 2 for Scoot, year 3 for Shea, and we're going to have all these weird veterans on this roster that kind of doesn't really fundamentally make sense with how you play. How can what do you make of the trust factor then? So the organization doesn't want to change the coach, but they're probably not going to extend him, and he's going to be gone. But I'm also supposed to trust that same organization to do the rebuild. It's kind of an odd dynamic, is it not?
It is, and it's like, it's super weird. Like Shaden has looked good, and Tumani has looked good. It's this very weird thing where it's like almost all of these players are like individual investments, and yes, some of them have improved, but there's not a basketball team here. And so, like, can they create a basketball team is really the next question. They've been able to identify talent like Shaden, like Tumani, like Denny. Obviously, Scoot has struggled, but like. So they've had good moments with like and Klingon, like individual players. They have individually raised their profiles and helped them get better, but they have not done so as a basketball team. And it's like, can they actually do that and not just treat each player like an individual investment and actually build a team?
Yeah, the thing on Scoot, too, he had 32 starts last year in his rookie year. So far, he's got 3 this year. He averaged almost 29 minutes a game. He's down to 26 this year, so that's a great way to ramp him up, get him ready for the long run in the NBA. Eric Gunderson, go follow him on Twitter, @Blazer Banter. Check out his Substack covering the Blazers. Glad your morning routine went well, and we found you right out of the bathroom. Thanks, as always, for the time. Let's do this again soon, okay?
All right. Thanks, guys.
There you go, Eric Anderson. Daily Ticker brought to you by Pelican Brewing, now offering their signature Pelican West Coast IPA on a shelf near you. Raise your glass and drink on Pelican Brewing, born at the beach. I love me some Gundy.
Well, I mean, it's always been weird to say, oh, yeah, they fumbled this decision, but they still know how to build a team.
Trust them, though. And next year, we're going to get it right. Next year is when we make the right calls.
So I was right. It wasn't on YouTube TV last night.
I have no clue
because we had listeners texting
saying
it was
on. I don't know. He's saying it's not on. We looked at the Univision channel and it's all Spanish broadcasting.
Yeah,
I'm very confused.
I am too.
Maybe we'll have an answer tomorrow.
Kind of sums up the 2024, 2025 Blazers.
I don't know what's going on right now. That's kind of the theme of the Blazers. Let's get to some of that ugliness that transpired last night in the association. We'll do that next on The Fan.
Who's stinking it up?
Woo! Do not go in there.
It's time for Who's Stinking It Up, a sports lowlight that's ripped from the headlines.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Brought to you by Three Mountains Home Services. Schedule your appointment online at threemountainshomservices.com.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court, but I want to be back to somewhere dominant. I want to hoop, and I want to help this team win. Right now, I'm not doing that.
Can you get your joy back here on the court?
Probably not.
Yeah, there's like almost half of the clip that we're going to play on the other side. Jimmy Butler basically saying, I'm done here, and the trade request came in. Dirt, when's the last time you lost your joy?
2 days ago.
What happened?
Nothing. Just hanging out.
Sounds like you need a new team.
Just sitting around.
Who's stinking it up? Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat culture. Brought to you by Three Mountains Home Services. Make your home services delightful. Let the pros tackle those projects you need completed. Schedule an appointment online. Three Mountains Home Services. That's threemountainshomservices.com.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
You got to be honest about Detroit, too. They have been kind of the team
The Fan. It's crunch time. Let's go! Where Dirt and Sprague crunch the hot topics you want to hear.
What's the pressure? Don't sit here and act like there's no... We get nervous teeing off in front of a gallery on the 10th hole at Eastmoreland.
Crunch time, brought to you by Crunch Fitness, with memberships as low as $9.99 per month. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com.
Hey, Crunch Time brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Memberships as low as $9.99 a month. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, online, crunch.com. We got a lot to get to in the final hour of the show. It is the final week of the NFL regular season. We'll have some more thoughts on that. A couple of games tomorrow in the AFC North. Interesting night in your association last night. Before we get to all of that, I did want to read a couple thoughts here from listeners on the Blazers. Somebody said, Sprague's buddy Meringue vehemently... Am I saying that right? Vehemently?
Close enough.
Vehemently?
It doesn't sound
right. Is it
right.
vehemently or vehemently?
I think it's vehemently.
Okay, I'll roll with that.
Vehemently sounds a little...
Vehemently.
A Rosarena?
Now I've said it too many times to where I can't, like the word sounds weird in my head.
I've always kind of struggled
Once
reading
you say it
the
too
word.
many, yeah.
I can say it, but when I have to read it, it doesn't come out right ever.
I'm reading it like a scholar in my brain right now. Disagrees about the Blazers fumbling Scoot's progression. I tend to agree with Gundy. It's a thought from listener.
First of all, Dan Meringue is a coworker of...
He's your buddy. Why don't you tell your buddy over there, huh? Why don't you tell your buddy to pipe down, huh?
Okay.
I've debated this with Danny. Out at the Fan Golf Classic, he cornered me on a tee box, and we debated Scoot for 45 minutes. I'm like, bro, I'm not backing down on this take. I mean,
neither is he.
Neither is he. His whole thought is, he does a lot of content, so I'm sure there's more nuance to it. It's basically that he's not ready to run an offense yet as a point guard, and
that's what it was definitely last year. I know that.
I understand it. I get where you're coming from, but my counter argument to that is, so he's ready to play 26 minutes a night, but not 30. Like he's playing, like you're not going to not play him.
Well,
so you're willing to play him, but there's a limitation on how much. Like, what's the difference between being the starter and playing 32 minutes and being a guy off the bench playing 26? That's what I just don't understand.
I think that there's a little bit of it's tough when you're Chauncey because we all want to see him go. I get it. He's not, anything other than a lame duck coach. But
I mean, he's not going to be the coach next year.
Exactly. And you want him to leave Scoot in, right? But at the same time, and hell, I want him to leave Scoot in to try and develop. But when he turns it over 3, 4, 5 times in a row, which he does, he will go stretches turning it over 3 times. You can't leave a guy like that in, no
Why
matter
not?
if it's a veteran or a young kid.
Why
it's
not?
just because
you're supposed to lose. You're tanking. You're not going anywhere this year. Like, I don't. Well, I think that's just the part. Like, I understand the theory of what you're arguing, Schultz. I genuinely do. That's just where you're at as an organization. That's the whole problem. Like, you learn, damn it, why did I turn that over? Like, you want to go sit him down for 2 seconds and say, hey, why didn't you did you not see this? Or did you, and then put him back in the game, whatever. Like, have those little coachable moments throughout, but not allowing him, like, he started 3 games in his second year in the NBA.
That's fair.
And he was touted as a generational prospect that we have to trade Damian Lillard in order to draft him.
Well, I think the tough thing to me is you can certainly make an argument for his age and, like, ready, not ready. You can have that argument. That's all well and good. I think it's a bit about, too, like, they're one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the NBA. They don't have a lot of great shooters on this team, right? Like, Ant got off to a very bad start statistically, like the worst of his career from the perimeter. Shaden,
he was like 1 for 6 last night.
I know. On catch and shoot, Shaden is terrible. Danny actually wrote about this. When he has the dribble, he's better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have great three-point shooting. What is Scoot better at than shooting? Finding guys and passing.
Running an offense.
Now, he certainly turns it over, to your point, Schultz. No doubt about it. But part of this is system roster, right? Like, if you can't kick to people who are going to make shots, some of your numbers won't look as good. My thing on this is they traded Damian Lillard, okay? The guy that didn't want to be traded, he wanted to be here forever. You could certainly argue there was no move to be made to be good, so Sprague, we got to move on. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. Dame puts in the request, he's traded. You then, with your first pick post the Dame stuff, you draft a point guard.
Same position.
You just trade the franchise point guard, the best in your organization's history, to draft the same position. You call it generational, can't miss, and then you didn't clear out space for him to start. You can make an argument that age and all that. He's drafted third.
Third overall picks play.
This wasn't the 13th pick. This wasn't the 23rd pick. This was the third pick. The third pick in the NBA is supposed to be what? Franchise, building block, the dude.
Superstar.
He may not be a superstar point guard. Many people are done with him already. They think he's a bust. That's fine. But it was a weird setup to not trade the other point guard, but to draft the one that you're saying is the generational one.
On top of that, they got Malcolm Brogdon in a trade last year, and they played him until the very end of the season.
And so, like, that hasn't changed, by the way. We still have Anthony Simons, who to me is a combo guard, not a point guard. We had Malcolm Brogdon, so we had a coach that didn't want to be a loser, so he plays the veteran guys, so you're not playing Scoot. Scoot starts and then comes off the bench. I kind of think the whole thing has been weird, and yet there are things I would point to that I like. I like Donovan Clingan.
Yes.
Even though some of his
having a good year.
Tamani is having a good year.
Abdia's coming on strong in the last month or two after a slow start for him.
Happy birthday. He's 24. His contract's going to actually get better as the years go on. There are things I like.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot of other things that I just don't agree with and like at all. And so I'm like, I don't know, man. It hasn't been very consistent, and we can laugh at Jimmy Butler as we play the No Joy clip, which I think we should still play because I'm like fascinated. An athlete said that out loud yesterday.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to act like we should be dunking on a team that's had multiple championships.
No, we can't dunk on anybody.
And we're sitting here continually in a tank with not sure how we want to build this thing.
We've been to one conference finals in the last 25 years. We can't dunk on anybody
outside
of maybe the Kings or the association.
No, the Blazers like to sit on the fence post. That's literally what they're doing.
They're not committing either way.
And they frankly, it's fascinating to me still that fans think that they're going to make the right decisions trading these guys, getting these assets when, they bungled handling the trade for Damian Lillard. They bungled drafting somebody to actually be around him. Instead, it's his replacement that we think we can play you with. They bungled then keeping him in the organization. They have screwed everything up over the last, 5 to 7 seasons?
Well, I think
since their Western Conference Finals appearance, firing Terry Stotts was a bad decision. Every single roster decision that they've made to put around Dame, acquiring players like DeAndre Ayton that would have fit well with Dame after Dame left, makes no sense. Please, can somebody explain to me anywhere in the sports world what the Portland Trail Blazers are doing right now?
I think that the tough thing, too, as we get a classic Schultze rant.
That was a good one. I appreciate that.
You can point to Reed Shepherd. I believe, I'll go check it, but I believe Reed Shepherd, top of my head, was the 3rd pick in the draft to Houston.
Sounds about right to me.
You can point to that and say, Sprague, he's not playing. Yeah, the Rockets are a good team.
They're a good team. They're in the playoffs.
What I'd also say is it was regarded as what kind of draft?
Not a good draft, Bob.
And the draft Scoot was in was
a good draft, Bob.
Yeah, so like
Reed Shepherd was indeed the 3rd overall pick.
So like I don't even think that comp is accurate.
How's the Castle kid playing in San Antonio? Is he starting?
He's been a little banged up, but he is playing.
He was the 4th overall pick.
Okay, there you go. My overall point is you take a guy 3rd. I historically, fundamentally, personally think he should be playing a ton of minutes to find out what he is as quickly as possible.
And learning through the mistakes and growing through the mistakes. You're going to have bad moments.
That's just where me and other people may disagree. And I don't know where or how it's going to get cleared up because I don't know what the trade value of some of the players that are veterans on this team quite is yet going into the trade deadline.
Yep, we'll have to wait and see on all that. A couple of quick thoughts, and then we'll go. I know we're against it here. Bob said Chauncey was terrible last night. Shea had it rolling, then he just puts him back in the corner rather than keep giving him action. His offensive sets are terrible. When it's Scoot and Ant, they both play up top. When it's Shea and Ant, he puts Denny or even 2 up there and leaves Shea in the corner. It's just terrible. The vibes are terrible as well. And he said, I'm talking about the half-court sets. And so that's been a complaint of his for a while as a head coach. We'll see how this goes the rest of the way. Many of us will say, we told you this was coming. You have a lame duck head coach. Not quite sure what you expected to happen this year. You got too many veterans that are hindering the growth of your young players. It's just a roster that doesn't make a lot of sense, and it's an organization that was unwilling to eat $5 million or whatever it was to get out of the Chauncey deal and go hire a coach who you can build around. And then on top of that, listeners are saying the game was on Univision on YouTube TV last night, but it was blacked out. So I'm really confused about how all this is going to play.
Being on YouTube TV that's blacked out?
I don't know. I will fully investigate tomorrow night at 6 or 5 or whatever time they're playing in Milwaukee. I'll fully investigate on YouTube TV and report back on Monday. We got a lot to get to in the final hour of the show. Fun with audio and your sport to start. We'll Sprague the line coming up at 8:30, 503-864-6326. That is the Vancouver Ford text line. Final thoughts on the last weekend of the regular season in the NFL. Loaded final hour. Don't go anywhere. Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
I'm Leif, owner of Leif's Auto Collision Centers.
First on the Fan, 7-seeded Notre Dame beating 2nd-seed Georgia in the Sugar Bowl during the quarterfinals of the college football playoff last night. 23-10 the final. Riley Leonard throwing for a touchdown, though. Jaden Harrison, the story of the game, taking a kick return to the house from 98 yards away. The Fighting Irish moving on now to face Penn State in the Orange Bowl next Thursday. In the association, the Blazers tipping off a 5-game road trip in Los Angeles by taking a loss to the Lakers 114-106. The final. 40-year-old LeBron not showing his age, 38 points to lead all scorers. Ant Simons leading the way for Portland with 23. Elsewhere in the league, 6-time All-Star Jimmy Butler has told the Miami Heat that he wants to be traded. He didn't give the team a list of favored destinations and is reportedly open to playing anywhere. And on the college hardwood, 22nd-ranked Illinois beating up on number 9 Oregon. It was their second loss of the season, 109-77, the final in Eugene last night. The Ducks now 1-2 in Big Ten play. Elsewhere, Loyola Marymount handling Oregon State 82-61, and 19th-ranked Gonzaga smacking the Portland Pilots up in Spokane 81-50, that final. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The Fan Merch Locker has a new long-sleeve tee and hoodies in your favorite college colors. Get yours now at 1080thefan.com. This is a Football Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague.
There's glory in the legends of this hard muscle life. And there's poetry in each season made of sweat and strife.
Dirt and Sprague on Football Friday.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app. Download the Odyssey app, follow 1080 The Fan, and enable push notifications to get the latest on the Ducks, Beavers, Blazers, and more.
All I know is you mess with me, you got problems.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
Hey, let's do this. Final hour, Dirt and Sprague here on Portland Sports Leader, 1080 The Fan, 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app, live on YouTube, as we are every single day.
Was that a fart?
No, it wasn't. We got a lot to get to in the final hour of the show. Sprague line coming up at 8:30. Get your fake sponsors in. 503-864-6326. Don't look now, but I am nipping at the heels of Jason Swigard.
Are you?
I am right there, baby. 3-0 weekend last weekend.
There
Picked
you
up another
go.
game on him.
There you go.
Just not finishing in last place. That's the ultimate goal.
Well, we still haven't paid off my loss from last year.
We'll do it. We'll get there.
You continue to say that, and I don't have a lot
I'm
of
not
optimism.
golfing anytime soon. I mean, when's the next time I'm going to play golf? It's going to be a long time.
I'm going to check in on July and say, hey, I'm trying to pay this off. People call me a bet welcher. I kind of want to get this paid off.
Make it happen, man. Come on. What are you doing over there? Bet Welcher. We'll talk a little NFL coming up in a moment. I want to thank the listeners who helped us with our Hooked on Phonics pronunciation.
Yeah, I thought there was more of an H pronunciation with that
Annual. It's a tough one. I sent it out. Annual. It's vehemently. The H is silent. The H is silent. Vehemently.
I always thought the H was a little present in that.
Flows off the tongue a little bit better, if I'm not lying.
Look,
vehemently.
We didn't get this job because we're perfect at saying words.
You asked me earlier, when was the last time I lost my joy? It was on New Year's Day, about 4 minutes into the football game, when the Ohio State Buckeyes scored in 3 plays from 75 yards out, and I thought, uh-oh, that's not a good start.
Well, I did that half joking, and as soon as I asked it, I'm like, oh, my God, he's going to say 2 days ago.
Yeah.
You were like, well, 2 days ago. Oh, my God, yeah, well.
Did you watch the Rose Bowl, Bob? That wasn't a lot of fun.
Well, Jimmy Butler wants to get a new team for his joy. Maybe you should, too.
Who's bummed out more, me with the Ducks losing, or Jimmy Butler in his current state in Miami?
What do I want to see happen? I want to see me get my joy back from playing basketball, and wherever that may be, we'll find out here pretty soon. But I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court, but I want to be back to somewhat dominant. I want to hoop, and I want to help this team win. Right now, I'm not doing that.
Can you get your joy back here on the court?
Probably not.
Wow.
Probably not.
Things are going well in Miami. Why is he so upset? Why has he won out so bad?
So,
because they're 17 and 15 this year. Like, that's not great. But
Bam's
that's kind of who they've been the
year.
last. I mean, they were an 8 seed when they went to the finals 2 years ago.
Well, I mean, this is kind of who he is, though, too, right? He's been in how many spots?
He's bounced around a ton.
And he reaches a point, no matter the organization.
Is he the Jim Harbaugh of the NBA? Is that what you're telling me?
There's a little bit to that, yeah.
Just runs out his welcome after a while. You're like, all right, we need to move on from you.
He's been there for a little bit. Remember, he was in the bubble finals.
He was. 2019, 2020 was his first year there. So this is 3, 4, 5, year 6 for him.
I mean, part of the reporting on this, too, is that he behind the scenes was quietly saying, I kind of want to get traded.
Can you trade me, please?
Look, he is a weird player in the sense of he wants to be in it because he has a lot of Himmy Butler moments, right?
He does, in the playoffs.
But he doesn't apply that all the time in the regular season. And so he's stuck in this, my team's not very good, but I don't give quite the playoff effort during the regular season, but I want to be in the playoffs. And so I think it's a combo of things. And then also, he quietly was asking for a trade behind the scenes, and Pat Riley, just out of left field, sent out a public statement on behalf of the Heat and said, we're not moving him.
This is not happening.
And that pissed him off. And so now you get pissed off Jimmy Butler. We remember the Minnesota Timberwolves pissed off Jimmy Butler. I'm going to beat you with the scrubs.
And he did in practice.
With a crop top T-shirt that had taped over Timberwolf logo on it. And then he did a Rachel Nichols interview 10 minutes after beating those dudes. This is going to be fascinating. Yep. Pat Riley is also Jimmy Butler, but as an executive. You don't F with me, I will not do what you want. And so now, 2 years removed from the, you guys better trade Dame to Miami. We got the culture. Now they've got it in the mirror of, what do you do here, Bob? The dude doesn't want to be here. He's shooting one-footed three-pointers. He's not trying. He doesn't care. He wants out. And publicly yesterday was about as public a statement as an athlete has given of, I want out. Outside of just saying straight up, trade me, that's what that was. And so I cannot wait to see who emerges as a partner and does he actually get his request? Because what do you do if you're the Heat? If he's going to be a clown when he plays, you sending him home? You suspending him?
Yeah, just not going to play him? How does that work?
This could potentially get very, very ugly.
But it's funny because it almost ties into the other clip I want to play here, and this happened on TNT last night. But, everybody... It won't go away, but the narrative about what's wrong with the NBA and why aren't more people watching, it's a conversation that goes in a circle that nobody has an answer for, and it's a very complex thing that people don't want to give complex answers for.
It's a tiring topic.
It's a very tiring topic, but I did chuckle because this is transpiring yesterday at the same time this stuff was going on TNT, and we'll play that in a second. I just thought, this is a part of the problem, that you just get stars have all the control in the league, and they can demand, I want out. Doesn't matter if you're under contract. Doesn't matter how many years you have left. I want out. I'm going to shoot one-leg jumpers, and that's the way it's going to work, and you're going to trade me, damn it.
I know you want to play the Barkley cut, and I'm with you there, but I quickly interject on that. I don't know if that's the case anymore. Well, at least right now. We'll see what Jimmy Butler, what happens with this. Simmons has noted this, as has Brian Windhorst on his podcast. The second apron, the salary cap structure of teams now has designed this to make it actually more difficult to move names like that. So he may get traded because this is a level that I'm not sure any player in the league outside of fat suit James Harden goes to.
Yeah.
Stars may want to move, but to go to his
to
level.
This level of public trade, that's fair.
I don't, even Dame put in a request, and it almost felt like he instantly regretted doing it because he became somewhat of a polarizing topic.
Sure.
So, I don't know how many players exist like this, and I also don't know if the way the salary cap is set up, if it benefits teams to trade for these dudes, nor try to work out financially how it works.
That's fair. So this happened last night on TNT, as recently J.J. Redick opined on the storyline of nobody cares about the NBA anymore, and he said this is ridiculous. People are still watching. Stop complaining,
he
basically.
Pointed to the pundits.
Pointed to the pundits. Said everybody on TV wants to complain, and Barkley on TNT last night had a response to it.
Was he just talking about folks on TV?
What did he say? He said something about we're the reason people ain't watching this crappy product we got. I said, JJ. Yeah, us. We out there jacking up 103s a night. JJ, I don't know Jason Monroe. I don't know who that is, but JJ, you come for the king. You better not miss. Because I can get you, brother, because I got your Lakers games. You can't hide them flaws they got. You just a dead man walking. They got rid of Frank Vogel, who did a good job. They got rid of Darvin Ham, who did a good job. But you came out there thinking you were going to change things with that same ugly girl you went on the date with.
64-51 was your halftime score. As we get back to the highlights, and Rudy Gobert.
He came in there thinking, I can make this thing work. Hell, you can.
77-71.
Put the makeup on that pig.
Man, the Lakers are pigs.
The Lakers stink, man.
Oh, man. Okay.
Wow. This actually connected to our good buddy Ken Barkley, who has been more active on social media. He's a delightful follow. And our buddy Lockie Lockerson.
I agree with everything he has said, by the way. This is why that show is the greatest sports show to ever exist. And also, in the same breath, I'm going to tell you this, that is very problematic and not good for the league at all.
Yeah, he basically said that show is a great show in highlights and funny moments of making fun of fat women in San Antonio or wherever.
Dirty water
and, spots in Texas, Galveston, right? Like those little clips in those moments are great, but then the actual substance of the show, his point was if you watch the entire show, it's not that good of a show. They don't really know that much about the current NBA. They jokingly have a segment at the start of the year, what team does this guy play for? And the guys can't answer any of the questions about off-season movement and all that kind of stuff.
He famously admits he's a hockey guy that doesn't watch the NBA. And so, I think both sides of this are right. It is, without a doubt, the best show. The chemistry, the goofiness, the unpredictability. Shaq broke one of the jumbo screens that Kenny uses at halftime by slapping it too hard, gets shoved into a Christmas tree. All of that is great. I agree 100%, though. I don't watch that show and, need the opinion of Barkley on hoops to have an opinion on hoops.
No.
It's the weirdest thing that sport deals with. Baseball has this a little bit, and I saw that in Lockie's tweet, but I agree with it, where, the former players bitch about the sport, whereas the NFL doesn't have that problem. They give flowers. They talk about how excited. Chris Collinsworth has an orgasm every time he calls a Lamar Jackson game.
He does, or a Mahomes game.
And he should.
It's just special down there.
And he
just
should.
What are we watching?
I am. He should. I love that. And you don't have to love everything about the new age of a league, but
Spit on that name.
I think part of this is Barkley's an MVP who didn't make a 15th of what he could make if he was the same player in today's league. And I think there's bitterness that brews with that. Maybe not with him, but maybe other players. It's just an odd dynamic. It's the leading face of your league, and they openly hate the league. And I would argue they do shoot too many threes. I certainly actually would say that. I think last night, the Timberwolf-Boston Celtic game, they shot 63% of their shots were from three. But I also would say there's still better basketball being played than there was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and 20 years ago. You're just opining for commercials and NBC Sundays, and you're lying to yourself. Do you know what the final score of Game 1 of the 2005 NBA Finals was?
I'm going to guess 72-64.
84-69.
Yeah.
That is, you don't miss that. Yeah. You just hate watching them miss threes, or you tell yourself you do. And so, I think there's a lot of wiggle room here.
I think
you
the
can't have
downside
Barkley
is
be the voice of that sport when he's openly preferring hockey and telling you I don't watch or know anything about it.
I think the downside will always be there are ugly examples of it of teams that don't do it well. Use baseball as an example. The same analytical approach has been brought to both sports, and it leads to a lot of people complaining. In baseball, it's home runs or strikeouts. It doesn't matter anymore. We don't care about batting average. If you got a guy on base, swing for the fences, even if it's a 2-strike count, guess, take a fastball down the middle because you're looking for a curveball. We'll take the aggregate at the end of the year. If you do that enough, you get enough home runs. That's what we want, and that's what produces wins in their mind. That's the analytical approach. The difficulty is there's a lot of bad teams that don't have the ability to do that still try that approach. And I think that happens a little bit in the NBA where there's bad teams that just jack up a lot of threes, but they're not very good at it.
No, Charlotte and Chicago are league leaders in this, and their records combined are
terrible.
Beyond.
And so, if I'm a fan of those teams, the Mariners have had a little bit of this. No offense, Schultz, but they've had a little bit of this where a lot of guys that hit a $197. It's not fun to watch. They don't score runs, and then you have your random game where four guys hit a home run. You're like, hey, this is great, and then they don't score a run for a week, and it's this is not entertaining for me to watch. But there are teams like the Dodgers who have a loaded lineup who swing for the fences, and you're like, dude, this is dope. Mookie, Ohtani, Freddie, all these guys are hitting bombs. Last night's Boston-Minnesota game. I would imagine, I didn't watch any of it because I didn't realize it was on. I would imagine it was a very entertaining game.
It was.
And Boston took 57 three-pointers. Yep. Minnesota took 39. Minnesota shot 53% from three, so they made over half.
Yeah.
Boston with 57 is a ridiculous number, but they were damn near at 40%. So there are teams that can do it well at a high level that when they do, let's not complain because that's entertaining.
And to that last point, because I know we're way against it, but we're citing the bad. How often are we going to come back to the NFL and we're going to talk about
what the Browns are going to put on display?
Browns and Saints? Are we going to talk about that? No, we're going to talk about Vikings, Lions.
Great game.
Bengals, Steelers. Yeah. The Broncos and Bo Nix may make the playoffs. It's such a weird. You want to point to the crap and say that's why the league sucks. Boston, who jacks up the most 3 points, what's their record?
25-9.
Okay. The Warriors are middling. The Cavaliers have the best record in basketball.
Yes, they do. They're 29-4.
They average the fifth most taken threes. The Timberwolves have figured this out a little bit better. after a first kind of rocky start here. You've got Wemby in San Antonio, Oklahoma City, the Grizzlies. So it's like,
well, just because they're making them doesn't mean that people want to watch people just shoot threes the entire time. 48 minutes to just chuck it up, go to the other end and chuck it.
Look,
I think I'm Damian Lillard, even though I can't shoot. I don't want to watch that.
You want to cut down 4 to 5 a game? I'm more than willing to acknowledge that. You want to go back to watching them shoot 40% from 2?
But actually,
you want to watch back to the basket,
basketball.
Like what?
I want to watch some mid-range game. I want to watch more two-man game where instead of just trying to go back and forth between the three-point line with each other, you actually set a screen. Oh, look, somebody curls off and does a post move, or somebody shoots a mid-range jumper. It's actual basketball as opposed to just shoot, chuck it up.
Do you
again.
watch NBA classics, like the hardwood classics? Do you watch them? I'm just asking.
No, I just watched like a 0-1 Blazers game like 2 weeks ago because I was just looking, random YouTube stuff. But that was just an old Blazers game. So
go watch 1999.
Oh, I know the scores are terrible. The game moves.
That means the basketball was bad.
No, the game was more physical then. If you could somehow, I'm not saying let's go to 1999.
No, it's not. It was not more physical in 1999.
It absolutely
No,
was.
it
The
wasn't.
referees allowed it to be more physical. Guys like Charles Oakley hanging around in the league still
that's
made
what
it more
we need.
physical.
We need more Oakleys in the game committing fouls.
Charles Oakley.
Come on,
this is
man.
What we need.
I'm sorry.
Jermaine O'Neal literally had to try to guard Shaq. You're telling me that wasn't a more physical league than it is now? If Denny Avdia points at somebody wrong, which he did last night, he gets a technical. The NBA is soft. Period.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, you don't watch it.
Oh,
people that don't watch it say it's soft.
I literally
and it's less
watched
physical.
I watched
Jokic
the
is
TNT
averaging
game.
more points than
Whatever.
Shaq ever did. Giannis is new age Shaq. Like, I'm sorry to say this. You can hate how many threes they take, and I won't argue that point. Stop acting like 2002 NBA basketball was. You know what I miss? I miss 38 attempts for Allen Iverson so he can make 14 of them. What a highlight.
I don't really feel like I can have that much of an opinion on this because I don't watch a lot of NBA basketball. So, like, I always hear people say, "Can I get a mid-range game back?" And then I turn on an NBA game and I'm like, "They're shooting a ham. They're doing mid-range stuff still." There's still guys that play.
Those are the same
from
people that don't
post, and they're
rewatch
like-
those old games. Like, they were terrible.
Well, you two idiots wouldn't stop yelling at each other. There you go. The NBA's broken. What's wrong with your sport, dude?
That's my guy.
I think Schultz is taking out his duck anger on you on the NBA. We're fired up.
I would
What do
say
you
in
want
this
from us?
conversation, I'm Ohio State.
You're
So
Ohio State. You get the win there. Let's get to the final weekend of the NFL season, and then we'll spring line coming up at the bottom of the hour. Back after this on the Fan.
It's the Vancouver Ford text line.
Plenty of time to talk sports today.
One number does it all. 503-8646-FAN. For contests and texting your Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
on 1080 The Fan.
Well, look at you guys just commandeering the final hour. I wanted to talk NFL football. We're over here talking NBA. It's a hoop show now.
I mean, you said NBA season starts at Christmas.
That is true. It is technically NBA season.
But there's been like 30 games, so we should probably dive in and catch up a little bit.
Just probably figure out what I missed out on. Last weekend of the NFL, as we get ready to make our Sprague and the Line picks in a moment, get your fake sponsors in, 503-864-6326.
By the way, if there was ever a Schultzy podcast that's not Believe Mariners, like he did his own Jordan Schultz show, the real Jordan Schultz, it should be called Bolsh.
Bolsh. Bolsh should be the name.
You love
of
a good Bolsh on the air. You love to say Bolsh.
He just gets all fired up over there.
Because I know what you want to say, and I totally get why, but I love a good Bolsh from you.
I wish we could cuss on the radio. I would love that. Yeah. You just slip in an F-bomb every now and then when you're in the middle of a rant to emphasize a point. It would be delightful.
Technically, after 10 p.m., we can.
Really?
Well, the FCC past 10 does not monitor or enforce.
Why don't we have a 10 p.m. to an 11 p.m. show called Unfiltered?
Don't quote me on that, though, because, like, I mean, now in 2025, everything's kind of jumped the shark with, like, you know, on FX you can hear swear words, and on the network
I'm so confused about how any of this stuff works. Like Pat McAfee just cusses up a storm every day on ESPN.
Which it's because it's and that is a cable channel. So it is not an over-the-air
broadcast. On the broadcast.
They made it wasn't even like alluding to a sexual reference. They just made outright like a big sexual reference on like,
nuts.
Yeah.
Being busted.
Crazy.
That's allowable.
Dirt once on our night show dropped a loner with a B, and like we were freaking out that we were going to get fired.
I also dropped a school of
cock-a-doodle-doo.
We were doing I think porn movie name, puns if you will or whatever. So, last weekend of the NFL regular season, and it's an interesting schedule because you get such a huge amount of games in that 10 a.m. slate. There's not a lot of them. Like, if I'm looking up and down the list, how many 10 a.m. games outside of the NFC South, but both of those opponents are terrible? Like, Tampa's playing New Orleans at home, and Atlanta gets Carolina. So those games, you could tell me, like, they matter, but it's not like one team's playing a good team and the other one's playing a bad team. They're both gonna win this weekend, or at least should.
Carolina could randomly beat the Falcons.
They very well could. I would be shocked as hell if Tampa found a way to lose to New Orleans at home. Like, I just don't see that happening. So the 10 a.m. slate is very weird, where Saturday you get Ravens needing a win, but they're playing a terrible Browns team. Saturday night will be a lot of fun. 10 a.m. slate is terrible. And then you get intrigue in one because you need Denver with the win. The Chargers might be playing for something. And then it fast forwards essentially to Sunday Night Football. I think it's a final week of the regular season. Outside of Sunday Night Football, dare I say, bit of a dud. Almost everything playoff-wise is decided outside of the Cincinnati.
Steelers could end up being a great game.
I'll give you that one.
That
on Saturday
one could
night.
end up being a good
They
game.
just played them 2 months ago, and it was like 44-38.
If Cincinnati wins, that's where Sunday changes a little bit.
That's where Sunday gets interesting.
The beauty is, if I'm, let's see here.
Because then the Denver game would absolutely matter. The Chargers would be playing for seeding. Like, all of a sudden, that comes into a picture.
Are we confident Denver's going to win even with Wentz starting?
They're a 10.5-point favorite.
They've slid a little bit. They noted this on the, what game would it have been? The Bengal game. They noted it on the broadcast. Their defense has fallen a little bit.
Yeah, they're playing better offenses and they're giving up points.
Yeah, so their defense isn't quite as, consistent as it once was. And again, there have been weird results in these last weeks of seasons before, right? Like, we've seen games where we think we know the outcome and, oh my God, that team with so-and-so might win, or, oh, they did win, or, oh, they covered, but man, they were lucky to win. Denver, it looks like, should win this game because Kansas City seems to be punting on it.
You would imagine. They got nothing to play for.
But I'm also not going to pretend that Carson Wentz can't randomly be okay. He once was like an MVP frontrunner in this league, and so I'm largely with you.
That's a very interesting spread to be 10. Like, Denver favored by 10.5. And I know it's Wentz. I know Kansas City has nothing to play for.
Yeah.
It's just a pride thing.
Well, they're a good team. I mean, it's not like they just have 11 guys and then that's it. They got backups that are good. I'm just saying, like, could Bo Nix have a mediocre to bad day and the defense not play well? Like, that's all it takes for these games to suddenly be interesting. largely, though, on paper, I'm with you that there's not a lot of intrigue.
Because most of the playoff picture is fully set outside of where teams will be seeded.
Well, and I hate to tell you, but if the Chargers have nothing, or if the Chargers, do have something to play for, that game won't be interesting.
No, because
they'll steamroll the Raiders.
They should steamroll the Raiders.
The Raiders are not very good. They beat the Saints last weekend. That might be it for them.
But ironically, I think Raider fan is now cheering for that because they've won a couple of meaningless games late and cost themselves the number 1 overall pick in the draft.
Here's the other thing.
What are we doing?
Draft standings are involved here, too. You don't have to care about those games or teams. But New England's going to start Drake May, and reportedly they want to win because Mayo may be thinking he's coaching for his job.
And Buffalo's got nothing to play for. They're locked in.
They have nothing to play for. So if New England wins and May's good, New England loses the number 1 pick of the draft.
Philly's not playing a lot of guys. Saquon's not playing. The Giants could get another win this weekend. That's honestly the more intriguing. Outside of Sunday Night Football, and I will give you Bengals and Steelers. I'm excited for that game on Saturday. Outside of that, the draft seeding is almost more like the bad football is almost more entertaining.
But it doesn't give it a reason to really care that much either, though. It's interesting to see and talk about. It's not really good. Like, I don't know how interested you are in watching the Titans beat the Texans.
Not at all.
Right.
Jags and Colts, you want to watch that one?
Not a single second.
Niners without Brock Purdy going to Arizona this weekend. The Dolphins are playing the Jets, although the Dolphins are technically still... Are the Dolphins... Are they eliminated?
No, they're alive. Let me see the Broncos.
They're still
alive because the Broncos are 9-7.
So they need Cincinnati to lose. They need Denver to lose.
No, the Bengals need the Dolphins to lose.
Oh,
I believe.
Yes, the Dolphins have a better chance than Cincinnati. Since he's at the bottom.
Okay, touche.
They got like 10% chance.
They need Aaron Rodgers to pull off a late season win. Is that what you're telling me?
There's no Tua in that game.
There is no
Tua.
Tua.
It's a Snoop Huntley game.
It's a pick'em game in New York.
It's quite an enigma.
It's a big enigma.
Should be a Tyrod Taylor game, not an Aaron Rodgers game.
No kidding.
You know what I mean?
Let's give some gambling picks. Where are we going to go? Final weekend. We got Swag's picks live from Spokane. We'll give you those, and we'll read off our fake sponsors. Yours are welcome. 503-864-6326. That's the Vancouver Ford text line. Sprague in the line next. First year Schultz with Sports Center.
This is a Football Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on the Fan, 7-seeded Notre Dame beating number 2 seed Georgia in the Sugar Bowl for the quarterfinals of the college football playoff last night. 23-10 the final. Riley Leonard throwing for a touchdown. Jaden Harrison taking a kick return to the house from 98 yards out. The Fighting Irish moving on to face Penn State in the Orange Bowl next Thursday. In the association, the Portland Trail Blazers get going with a 5-game road trip in Los Angeles, though losing to the Lakers 114-106 the final. LeBron James had a night, 38 points for the 40-year-old, while Ant Simons led the way for the Blazers with 23. Portland off today before facing Dame and the Milwaukee Bucks on Saturday. 6-time All-Star Jimmy Butler has told the Miami Heat he wants to be traded. He didn't give him a list of favored destinations, but is pretty much reportedly open to playing anywhere. On the college hardwood, 22nd-ranked Illinois handing number 9 Oregon their second loss of the season. It was a 109-77 beatdown in Eugene. The Ducks moved to 1-2 in conference play. Also, Loyola Marymount beating Oregon State 82-61, and 19th-ranked Gonzaga smacking the Portland Pilots 81-50 the final there. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schultz at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Jump back to earlier parts of your favorite fan shows on the Odyssey app. The only way to rewind Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
Let's face it, selling your
Ball Friday edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
on 1080 The Fan.
Sprague in the line.
Bosh.
Sprague in the line.
Bosh.
Before we get to, we're already against it here. Before we get to our fake sponsors,
Yeah.
we did have a bit of news come across the wire there.
Did we? Breaking
A
news?
little bit of news, a little local news come across the wire.
By the way, Schultze, final thought. Like, people will largely agree with you on the physicality thing. I will just go to my grave.
I get it.
The softness of playing, I won't argue. These guys should be playing. The game itself, I don't think, is less physical.
I think you need to find a way to balance the two of them. That's the. I mean, you just
yeah.
got to find a way to, whether it's bringing hand checking back that always gets discussed, not getting, not having a review for a flagrant 2 every time somebody gets breathed on, like
sure,
not shoot as many threes.
Yes.
Like there is a balance here that we can find where you're both making arguments that are completely valid.
I think the play itself is physical. The reffing, the games played, those are separate to me.
Yeah, that's fair. This just, before I get to some sponsors and we do our picks, this just came across the wire.
Darren Sagapotule, well, whatever,
Well, whatever. He's not going to be a Duck. I didn't even know this was possible.
Hawaiian kid?
The Hawaiian kid, yeah. Jaren Kiwi Sagapotulele?
Sagapotulele?
Lele? Lele, sure. He is going to enter the NCAA transfer portal this weekend.
What? So I can't remember who it was, but there was another big recruit that did this recently.
Well, Oregon just had one with Dallas Wilson, but he asked out of his grant of rights. He said, I gave my paperwork. Can I get out of my paperwork?
Isn't that kind of the same thing?
Yeah, but I didn't know. Is he already enrolled enough to enter the transfer portal? How does that work?
I don't know.
Is he a student?
Did he just discover Dante Moore's quarterbacking at Oregon?
I don't know.
Keely Smith Jr. might be the future?
I don't know. Buyer's remorse, bigger deals somewhere else. I have no clue what happened there. They got 2 quarterbacks in this class, but
who reported that?
Brandon Huffman just sent out a tweet.
Wow.
As of 3 days ago, his new profile pic was him sitting on the throne in a Duck jersey. That makes
he was literally at practice for the Rose Bowl. He was at the Rose Bowl.
Sense.
Yeah, he was in Jersey on the sideline at the Rose Bowl.
So is he going to Cal?
I don't know. My nose. He just entered the transfer
Cal come in
portal.
and say, "Hey, we got extra $100 grand.
We got extra money.
Donated.
Got some of that Silicon Valley money
You
coming
want that
in.
lib money? We got that lib woke money.
Gonna be woke down here, buddy. So there you go. Not gonna have to learn that name.
Darren Sagapotule, well, whatever,
Unless he plays Oregon at some point. So there you go. A little bit of news coming across the wire. Quickly here, we got Sprague Line brought to you by Hooked on Phonics. Sprague is not very vehement when making his picks, so I vehemently declined to take them. 2 for 2. Sprague Line sponsored by Vehemently.
Yes.
When you use a Sprague pick, you have to vehemently defend your picks. I don't mean be vehement. I mean vehemently defend them vehemently. I hate all of you for making me pronounce a word that I couldn't pronounce earlier in the show.
But see, when you're not trying to read it and you just say it,
Now
I feel like you're saying it right.
I'm building some confidence. Sprague and Line brought to you by the Total Chaos and College Football Playoff and the NFL. Bet at your own risk. Here's what we did last week. I don't think ever released our picks because we were on vacation. But here's where who we all took. Where did this go? Sprague, I forgot to write down your picks on my show sheet, but I know you went.
I went 1 and 2.
You went 1 and 2 last weekend.
I lost on the Colts.
That's right. I got it right here. Colts -7.5, Packers -1. So you missed on those, and then you hit on the Bucks -6.5 against Carolina.
Easy money.
Swag went 2 and 1. He hit on the Chargers against New England and the Bucks as well. Lost on the Packers. You guys are both on Green Bay last weekend.
Yeah.
I took the Chargers as well. I took the Bengals in that win over Denver on Saturday night, and then I had the over of 48.5 in Packers and Vikings. So that was a 3-0 weekend for me. Swag went 2 and 1. You went 1 and 2. Season standings now. You were still in first place, 32 and 22.
Okay.
Swag is in second at 26 and 28. I'm in third at 25, 28 and 1.
Coming up the rear.
I'm a tie away from being right there.
There we go.
So the floor is T-Box is mine right out of the gate. I'm going to start on Sunday. And this is an easy one for me. It doesn't make sense. I think they're going to win the game by 30.
Yeah.
Tampa needs to win the division. The Saints are terrible, and they're heading for Cancun. Give me the Bucks -14.
The only trip up there is, do they get up 27-7 and then we've won, we don't need to play the rest of this game, backdoor cover?
Sure, backdoor could happen. 13.5 will make me feel a lot more comfortable.
Certainly looming there. I hate to do this because I don't like us picking the same. The pickings are slim this weekend. There's
so many. What are you going to take? Titans? You going to gamble on the Jags?
I'm taking Bucks as well, -13.5.
19.5.
I think it is 14 technically.
No, I'm on DraftKings
right now.
It's Bucks -13.5.
Actually, I'm going to go lock that.
So
in
that
right
means
now.
people are taking the Saints a little bit.
You go ahead and make a pick, Schultz. I'm going to lock that bet in, and then I'll continue the round robin here.
I say Bills to cover. I know Gerard Mayo is trying to coach for his job, but it's only a 2.5-point line. They're on the road. They don't care. But come on, New England sucks. So I say Bills -2 points. 2.5.
Okay, Bills minus 2.5. I like it. I give it the 2.5 there. I like it. Instead of saying 2.5, 2.5. I like that. It's
just
official.
reading.
Swag's first pick, by the way, I'll give those at the end. How about that? My next pick, I'm going to Sunday. Now, this is a contingent game because I need one thing to happen on Saturday in order for this point spread to be something that I can take advantage of, but I have a feeling it's going to happen. I'm not going to bet it because Swag's taking it, and I need to make up ground. I think Cincinnati's going to win in Pittsburgh on Saturday. They're favored. They got a vibe going. Pittsburgh's locked in. They're one team's playing for their life. The other team's playing for seeding.
Yeah.
I like the way the Bengals are playing late in the year. I know everybody talks about that lucky win. Denver hit a Hail Mary, essentially, to send that game to overtime at the end of regulation. So I think that's going to happen, and therefore, because that happens, I am hammering the Chargers -4, I believe is what it's at right now, but I'll go double check. It's either 4 or 4.5. Give me 2 seconds. Scrolling. 4.5 right now. So I'll take the Chargers -4.5 against the Raiders on Sunday.
I'm going to jump over one here. They win. They get a better seeding here. It just depends, I guess, on the perspective as well. And I think that's the tough thing. Do these teams want to move the seeding? Do they like the matchup? I'm going to take a good team versus a bad team. I'm taking the Commies -6 at Dallas.
Okay. Commies -6 at Dallas. Schultz, you got something else?
Yeah, I'm also sticking with the Steelers-Bengals game that you were on, but I'm going under 47.5 points total. I just don't think Pittsburgh, they haven't really been scoring well as of late. Russell Wilson hasn't been as good as he was to start when he came in under center in Pittsburgh. So I'm just thinking, Cincinnati's probably going to win, and in that, Pittsburgh won't be able to score. It's just kind of Tomlin's style. So under 47.5.
It's interesting because I saw that bet as well. You know what the score was when they played 5 weeks ago? Do you remember that game?
30-30.
No, it was 44-38. Russell Wilson had 412 passing yards.
By the way, I just want to add to that, Schultz, just to help you. I believe they're all playing.
Yeah, no, I think
because they want the 5 seed too. They want to play Houston and not Baltimore.
And it's clear weather, just cold.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be 22 degrees and dry. That's what the weather's going to be.
Yeah.
Last pick for me, these ones have been pretty helpful and beneficial. NFC North overs have hit a lot for me. And now, thank God the Packers finally showed up offensively with 8 minutes to go in that game because they did next to nothing, and Minnesota was the only team carrying the torch for the over, and that ended up hitting last week. It was 48.5. This one's a little bit higher. I look at Detroit's injuries on I don't think they can stop anybody right now, man. The banged-up Niners team put 34 on them last weekend.
Yeah.
Playing on a short week. I also know that the Lions can score on essentially anybody that they play. They're one of the best coached teams in the NFL, and their offense has not been decimated by injuries. So, look, it's a big number. It's a bit of a gamble, but I'm taking it. I think this game's going to be fireworks and awesome. Two teams going for it. Two teams being aggressive. Give me the over of 56.5 between the Vikings and the Lions.
I'm going to actually go opposite of Schultz on my last pick. I'm going to take the over. Now, I'm on the DraftKings app as we speak. I have it at 48.
48, okay.
I will take the over of 48 Cincinnati-Pittsburgh.
Okay, 48.
Cincinnati's defense is just...
Cincinnati can't stop it. I mean, they can't stop anybody. Yeah, that's why they might end up missing the playoffs, and very well could end up missing the playoffs. So, for Sprague and the line purposes, again, Sprague's record 32-22. He's on the Bucks -13.5 against the Saints, the Commies -6 against the Cowboys, and the Steelers-Bengals over of 48. Swag in second at 26-28. He is on the Bengals -2 on Saturday night. He also likes the Commies. He's stealing your picks again in Dallas. And then he's taking the Vikings Sunday night +2.5 in that big NFC North showdown. And then I am bringing up the rear still, but maybe not for long. 25-28-1. I like the Bucks -13.5 against the Saints. The Chargers on Sunday -4.5 against the Raiders. And then the over in Sunday Night Football between the Vikings and the Lions. There you go. We're against it. Let's wrap it up on a Friday. Send you in your weekend next on The Fan.
Ready to bring your dream home to life? At SmartLine Home Design, we offer 3D home plans that let you visualize every detail. Custom plans can fit any budget, cut out the nonsense, and get it done right the first time. A trusted local architectural design studio. Visit SmartLineHomeDesign.com.
It's time for To the House, the scoring plays that make football special. Brought to you by SmartLine Home Design. Online at SmartLineHomeDesign.com.
Jaden Harrison bringing back the kickoff. He brought 2 back for touchdowns last year when he played for the Thundering Herd of Marshall, and he has one for Notre Dame.
Yeah, if you missed the game yesterday, that's Sean McDonough on the call, ESPN. Taking it to the house at the end of the first half and the start of the second half, blew that game open. It was low scoring. Nobody could move the ball. And then Georgia turned it over, Notre Dame scored it, and they opened the second half returning the kickoff for a touchdown.
Is it a hot take to say that was the slowest kickoff return I've ever seen in my life? I thought he was just going to stop and fall down, and then he just burst out of the crowd.
Felt a little slow, yeah.
He didn't look like he was overly fast,
No.
and then Georgia couldn't catch him. It was a wild moment. 17 points in 54 seconds changed the whole game.
Deceptively fast. Is that what you're telling me? To the House, brought to you by Smartline Home Design, a trusted local architectural design studio ready to bring your dream home to life. Visit smartlinehomedesign.com.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
Colin Cowherd. Sark, and I like...
Edition of Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by the Odyssey app.
on 1080 The Fan.
There you go, fist pumping your way into the weekend every single Friday. Well, we made it to the end of the week.
We did.
Didn't really feel like a Friday, but it is a Friday.
Very weird week in general.
Feels more like a Tuesday. I think a lot of people are on vacation today still.
What are we going to do tomorrow, next year when this is all on a Thursday again?
Thursday, I'm going to probably bitch again, the same amount of bitching that I did this year. If none of this makes sense, and let's just put all these holidays on a Friday and give everybody a 3-day weekend. Does it just streamline things, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of makes a little more sense. What am I saying? We do get the final weekend of the NFL regular season. The Blazers are in action tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I
on Univision.
Make a promise to you people. I make a promise to the constituents of this radio show. I'm going to do my due diligence. I'm going to turn that game on YouTube TV. And
Well, so am I.
I will fully investigate for you. I'm the Kyle Ebosha. Is that what his name is on KGW? Eboshi. Getting to the bottom of this stuff. What's going on? Why aren't we on YouTube TV? I was told on January 1st that was going to happen.
You notice the other networks have those people now? They have the investigative report. I've seen the K2 guy now.
I drove by the K2 live traffic car today on my way in on 205.
I've seen it a couple times on the way
Wanted
in.
to wave at him, say, put me on TV. Hey, put me on TV.
Those are so useless now.
Well, there was a small...
Don't show us what the road conditions are, Schulte.
There was a small little
check
shootout
that online
at the Clackamas Mall while I was on vacation.
A shootout?
Oh, yeah, by Barnes & Noble. By that transit center. It gets a little problematic
really?
at times.
That
yeah.
happened?
Not like a big one, but like a pew-pew.
Like
just
between,
there.
it wasn't a mass one. It was like
No,
between
no,
it.
no. It was a
Yeah.
guy got shot in the hand. A kid got shot in the hand. You know, pew, 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 pew. And there was a lot of police action going on, so we were weary, but we ate some ramen over there. And so we went hours after it had happened. But there were still like 7 or 8 cop cars in the parking lot. And as we drove past the claim jumper, we saw the on-site witness interview from K2.
Yeah. Put the mic. Hey, what'd you see? What'd you hear? What happened?
And I just will always, if I see that, I will always remember the scene in Tommy. He hit me in the head after multiple times with a gun after with a hammer.
With a hammer.
And then he was just like, calm down, this only take a second. He just slides the gun over. I feel like witnesses do that on TV. Man, he had a gun this big.
You'll never believe what happened.
The hole was massive. I saw it.
Never believe what happened. We get the Damian Lillard game tomorrow. Does that do anything for anybody
doesn't
anymore?
mean anything to me anymore.
Is it dead?
That's the
Totally
hottest
dead?
take I could give you. And when he comes back,
Still the case in Portland?
yeah.
Yeah.
Now
Now that it's happened and transpired, we're just done. We're moving on from that story. They get him on the 28th of January, by the way. That is our only TNT game of the year. In 25 days, we get Milwaukee at home.
We'll see if it's flexed out.
I don't think they'll flex that one
No,
out.
probably not. But
The return games are always national TV worthy. That one will be it. Not that many to choose from on the West Coast. Like how many West Coast teams you got right now that they're salivating to put on? See, I tend to agree with you, though. Not a lot of emotion tied into it anymore.
it's just such a weird moment right now where our team isn't very good. If we were good, I think there'd be a little more juice to it.
Yeah, trying to win, and we're trying to Dame's in our way kind of thing.
And there will be people that go to the game when he comes back that didn't go to the first one that want to give him the standing O and the clap, and that's great.
Yeah, see him again.
But for as a sports fan viewer, it doesn't really do a lot of juice. For how many times can you rethank a player?
How many standing ovations can you give?
And you could say he deserves them till the end of his career, and I don't. Have
he'll get him
till
till the end of his career. You don't even need to say every time he comes to Portland, he will get a standing ovation.
But I'm just asking sincerely: does it matter the masses how many times an athlete comes back?
So.
I think they clap for LeBron when he goes to Cleveland, but that clap can't be as powerful as the first clap after he won the title for him.
No, after coming back, when he announced he was returning home to Cleveland and that whole that.
Or even his first year as a Laker going to Cleveland.
Yeah, after the title.
He gave him 4 straight years of championship opportunities, but Kevin Durant ruined it. Otherwise, they probably four-peat.
Yeah, or at least have 2 in there.
Or at least have 2 or 3.
Yeah.
They gave him probably a great ovation despite hating the Lakers.
Last weekend in the NFL, we get that. Who makes the playoffs? Who gets the last spot in the AFC? Denver with a win over Kansas City. Miami with a loss by the Broncos and a win themselves, or Cincinnati with the win and a Denver and a Miami loss.
I'm gonna lean on Denver here.
They get it done against the Chiefs.
Carson Wentz is not awful, but I'm gonna take Denver and a tight one. I would lean actually taking Kansas City with the points.
I would too. 10.5's a lot.
10.5 is a lot.
And they got the refs on their side. It's a whole thing.
They got 12 guys on the field.
They do, constantly.
Miami could very well lose to the Jets, and I wasn't kidding. I'd bench Rodgers. I'd play Taylor.
It's like, of all the teams that can make the playoffs, don't let Miami in. I don't need to see Miami with Tua banged up, going to a cold weather.
Burrow or Bo, please.
Yes, Burrow at least is entertaining, and he's a playoff assassin. We know that. Bo, rookie season, there's a fun, they're not going to beat Buffalo on the road. Let's play guess that point spread. Denver wild card weekend in Buffalo.
Buffalo minus 13.5.
You think so? 2 tutties,
I think
basically?
it's going to be a high one.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And then the NFC playoff picture is all set outside of the NFC South. You would need the shocking upset of Tampa losing at home to New Orleans and Atlanta winning in order to flip-flop that one, because Atlanta did beat Tampa twice this year. We feel set. We feel like it's going to be Tampa.
You don't lock it in Spencer Rattler? Come on.
I am hating on Rattler.
I hate Spencer Rattler. I don't think he's going to do anything.
That line is massive, and I totally understand taking a lot of points in the National Football League. You take Cleveland plus 20, I wouldn't laugh at you at all. My thought on that one is, one, Tampa's just better. They need this game bad. I remember the first contest when the Saints were still trying. That was a tight game, and then the Bucs blew them out.
Yes, they did.
And I believe the locker room conversation got brought up last week after losing to the Raiders in New Orleans, and they smell like 1, 2, 3 Cancun.
Yeah.
How many of those guys have the vacation booked for the Monday after this game? Probably half of them.
You would imagine so.
So I'm going to lean on the combination of things. I think Tampa's going to house them.
One of the random bets that I am eyeing that I hope somebody keeps me from placing, the Jags getting 5 against Indy in their current situation to me is a little funky. Like
so is Indy.
Indy openly quitting last week.
Yeah,
all the noise that McAfee's bringing up, the lock.
Did you read the Athletic report?
Yes, they had to sit down with Anthony Richardson and basically say, you have failed us. And DeForest Buckner told him that I re-signed here because I believed in you and you're disappointing me. This all kind of stemmed from him not being as prepped as he needed to be, and then tapping out of a game on a 3rd down, which then led to a whole different, the Colts have not even quiet quitting. They lost to the Giants and Drew Lock last week. They are openly quitting, whereas Jacksonville, I don't really know they're a terrible football team, but you're giving me 5 between 2 bad teams. I'm seriously contemplating gambling on the Jags this weekend.
Jags are playing Mac Jones.
Mac Jones time, baby. He's the next Tom Brady. You know that? You stick that in your pipe and
Think
smoke
Doug
MJ10.
Peterson's coaching for his job?
No, he's fired.
He should be fired.
He should be fired.
He's already gone.
He should already
Hey,
be
Mike
gone.
McCarthy. Maybe the new Bears coach.
What did Jerry say? I've thought a lot about the coaching choice all season. Well, what are you going to do, buddy?
Probably the wrong thing is probably what Jerry Jones is going to do.
Can you just give us, like, a semi-entertaining weekend of sports?
Give me a good weekend.
That's all I'm asking.
I'd love a good weekend. That will do it for us, folks. Thanks for being a part of our Friday. If you watch the show on YouTube, thank you. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can go find us there. Like the video before it closes down. Everybody, you can check the podcast, 1080thefan.com, at Dirt and Sprague and at 1080thefan on Twitter. Have a great weekend. Enjoy all the action. We'll be here Monday to break it all down. Talk to you then at 6 a.m. Colin is next. Listening to 1080 The Fan.
Will Los Angeles still go all out with nothing to play for? I'm Sammy P.